Chapter 2608. However, Lu Ming and the others would not let them off so easily. Lu Ming and the other experts from the righteous army worked together to hold back the three elders from the three-eyed divine tribe. Ball ball, smash. Lu Ming stared intently at the elder from the three-eyed race, calling for Xiao to smash his head and face. "I'll fight you to the death." The three-eyed divine tribe elder roared as he slashed his war blade at Ball Ball. A huge mouth full of sharp teeth suddenly appeared on Xiao's round body and bit down on the three-eyed old man's saber. Crack! A section of the three-eyed divine tribe elder's war blade was bitten off. The three-eyed divine tribe elder was dumbfounded. He was completely dumbfounded and his mind was in a mess. His war blade was a lower rank 5 divine weapon and was extremely hard. How could it be broken so easily? However, it had been bitten off by Ball Ball. He was dumbfounded. At this moment, Lu Ming seized the opportunity and stabbed his spear through the three-eyed divine tribe elder's forehead, killing him instantly. With a wave of his hand, he kept the three-eyed divine tribe elder's storage ring. Crack! Crack! Xiao opened its mouth wide and swallowed the other party's saber in a few bites. Then, it chewed with satisfaction, making crunching sounds. Even the experts from the righteous army were stunned. The other two experts from the Yuan Luo Palace seized the opportunity and rushed out of their encirclement. Retreat, retreat! At this moment, a voice rang out from the sky. It was a terrifying existence from the Yuan Luo Palace. The aura he emitted was shocking and unfathomable. Lu Ming estimated that he was a rank 9 empty god realm expert. However, the righteous army also had someone of such a level. The two of them had been fighting and now that they had separated, the Yuan Luo Palace gave the order to retreat. Swoosh! Swoosh! The experts from the Yuan Luo Palace retreated and turned into rays of light, disappearing without a trace. The righteous army did not chase after them. They understood that they should not chase after a cornered enemy. Moreover, their mission was to guard Chen Jindao. The people of Yuan Luo Palace retreated. The righteous sky army counted the casualties and cleaned up the battlefield. Then, they all returned to their cave residences. After a great battle, some people were injured, and some people suffered heavy losses. All of them needed time to recover. Lu Ming also returned to the cave, then took out some divine crystals and began to recover. Activating the battle incantation to double one's combat strength consumed a lot of world energy and ruler's power. Half an hour later, Lu Ming had fully recovered. Then, a black iron token appeared in his hand. It was the mission token. At this moment, the black iron token was emitting a faint glow. Lu Ming guessed that he had obtained it because he had killed an expert from the Origin Luo Hall. However, if he brought this token back, the people of the mission hall would probably be able to find out about Lu Ming's accomplishments and reward him accordingly. After putting away the token, Lu Ming took out a few more storage rings. These storage rings were obtained by Lu Ming after he killed his enemies. Among them, there were 2 5th-level Void God Realm experts. Lu Ming was looking forward to it and began to count them. After counting, Lu Ming was grinning from ear to ear. There were a total of 60,000 divine crystals. In addition to the divine crystals from before, Lu Ming had close to 100,000 divine crystals on him. In addition, there were more than a dozen divine artifacts of various grades. The highest grade divine artifact was a low-level 5 divine artifact. The others were all level 3 and level 4 divine artifacts. Together, they were worth a lot. Lu Ming casually threw 2 low-level 3 divine artifacts to Xiao to eat. Xiao grabbed them and ate them quickly. Lu Ming smiled and closed his eyes to cultivate. In his sea of consciousness, Jing Yu's picture scroll opened and emitted a strong ruler's intent. Lu Ming calmed his heart and started to comprehend. He cultivated for 10 days. During these 10 days, it was very peaceful. The Yuan Luo Palace did not attack. After finishing his cultivation, Lu Ming stood up. Where's Qiuqiu? Lu Ming looked around and did not find any trace of Qiuqiu. Lu Ming scanned the cave abode and soon, he made a discovery. Other than the hole, the cave dwelling was sealed on all sides. It was made of special rocks from the ore vein and was extremely hard. But now, there was a cave in the depths of the cave dwelling. Looking at the marks, it was clearly gnawed. There were teeth marks on both sides of the cave. Could this be gnawed by Qiuqiu? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Then, his muscles and bones began to wriggle. Finally, his entire body shrank and he rushed into the cave. The cave was very long. Lu Ming walked for a few thousand meters before he saw Qiuqiu. Qiuqiu was opening its mouth wide and gnawing on the surrounding rocks. The rocks here were actually the Chen gold ore vein. The Chen gold ore mixed with the rocks and became extremely hard. Normally, if one wanted to mine Chen gold, they had to be extracted from the ore. The process was very complicated. However, Qiuqiu directly swallowed the mineral vein in large mouthfuls. After a while, it spat out some powder and impurities. This guy, could it be absorbing the Chen gold inside? How is that possible? Lu Ming was surprised. Qiuqiu discovered Lu Ming and glanced at Lu Ming before continuing to eat. It ate at an extremely fast speed and soon, a huge cave had been created in this area. Lu Ming watched with interest. After eating for half a day, Qiuqiu's body had swelled up. Then, it stopped and rolled to the side like a rubber ball. It even burped and stopped moving. Obviously, it had eaten too much and was starting to digest it. This guy, Lu Ming smiled and did not care about it. After all, this ore vein was extremely huge. Qiuqiu would not be discovered if it ate some secretly. Lu Ming returned to the cave dwelling and continued to cultivate. Occasionally, Lu Ming would walk out of the cave dwelling and ask about the situation outside. During this time, no one from the Yuan Luo Palace had come to attack Chen Jindao. After a few more days, a piece of news came. The Yuan Luo Palace had sent out a large number of experts to attack the Seven Stars Island. Could the Yuan Luo Palace's real target be the Seven Stars Island? Was their previous attack on Chen Jindao just a cover-up? Maybe they want to break through the Seven Stars Island and completely drive the Jingtian army out of northern Shang planet and monopolize it. Very likely. Many people were guessing. As time passed, the Yuan Luo Palace's attacks on the Seven Stars Island became more frequent. The pressure on the Seven Stars Island increased greatly and they started to transfer experts from the surrounding islands as reinforcements. Chen Jindao originally had around 800 people guarding it. After 400 people were transferred, there were only 400 people left. Lu Ming was not transferred away and continued to guard Chen Jindao. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at Chen Jindao. A month had passed since then. On this day, Lu Ming felt a wave of energy coming from the tunnel that Qiuqiu had created. Lu Ming's figure flashed and charged into the tunnel. In the depths of the tunnel, Qiuqiu had already created a huge underground space. Qiuqiu had devoured a large amount of ore veins. At this moment, Qiuqiu's body was emitting waves of light. It was about to level up again. Chapter 2609. Qiuqiu was about to advance again. During this period of time, it had swallowed a large amount of Chenjin ore. Although Chenjin was not considered precious, it was in large quantities. Qiuqiu had swallowed a huge hole in the underground space of this area. No one knew how much Chenjin it had swallowed. Light spread out from Qiuqiu's surface. It swelled and shrunk for a while before stabilizing. Success. Lu Ming sensed that Qiuqiu had reached the 4th level of the Void God realm. Even Lu Ming was shocked by this speed of improvement. When Wan Jingxing had obtained Xiuqiu, it was only at the first level of the Void God realm. In just a few years, it had reached the fourth level of the Void God realm. It was not easy to advance in the Void God realm. It was not something a heavenly emperor realm could compare to. However, Xiuqiu did not seem to have any bottlenecks. As long as it had precious metals, it could continue to advance. The primitive universe is really mysterious. There are even such creatures. However, the more abnormal they are, the better. Lu Ming was grinning from ear to ear. Xiuqiu bounced a few times in the air and flew to Lu Ming's side. It shrunk rapidly and turned into a bracelet, wrapping around Lu Ming's hand. Lu Ming smiled and was about to go out and ask for information. Dong! 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 Suddenly, violent war drums sounded and even the cave residents shook. Enemy attack! A loud roar came from outside. Whoosh! Lu Ming did not hesitate and rushed out of the cave residence. So many people. As soon as he rushed out of the cave residence, Lu Ming was shocked. In the sky above the ore vein, figures were flying and emitting powerful auras. The experts of the Yuan Luo Palace were all experts of the Yuan Luo Palace. This time, the number of experts from the Yuan Luo Palace was shocking. There were at least 1,000 of them. And now, the righteous army had only left behind about 400 experts to guard the Chenjin ore vein. Kill! 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 The densely packed experts of the Yuan Luo Palace dove down and attacked the righteous army. Puff! Puff! Blood splattered everywhere. Immediately, a few experts of the righteous army were killed. There were too many people from the Yuan Luo Palace, almost 3 times the number of the righteous Sky Army. With 2 or 3 of them joining hands to deal with one person from the righteous Sky Army, the battle was completely one-sided and unstoppable. Kill! As soon as Lu Ming rushed out, 2 people attacked him. However, one of them was a level 3 Empty God Realm martial artist while the other was a level 4 Empty God Realm martial artist. Lu Ming was not afraid of them. Lu Ming directly rushed over. The meteor spear appeared in his hand and stabbed out. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 dazzling spear lights pierced out. Puff! The level 3 Empty God Realm expert was pierced by the spear radiance and died on the spot. Although the level 4 Empty God Realm expert managed to block the spear radiance, he was forced to retreat. So strong. The 4th level Ethereal God Realm existence was shocked. Previously, when he saw that Lu Ming was only at the Transformation Void martial stage, he thought that he could easily kill him. He did not expect that he would kick an iron plate. Kill! After Lu Ming forced the 4th level Ethereal God Realm expert to retreat, he raised his spear and continued to attack. The long spear vibrated and spear radiance pierced out. The 4th level Ethereal God Realm expert tried his best to defend himself but he was still unable to defeat Su Mo. He kept retreating and was in danger. That brat is still here. We must kill him. Kill! At this moment, not far away, a few people flew over and glared at Lu Ming. It's them. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. 2 of them were the level 5 Empty God Realm experts who had escaped from him and Xiuqiu previously. This time, the 2 of them had brought 2 other experts to kill Lu Ming. The other 2 experts had terrifying auras and were stronger than the level 5 Empty God Realm experts. They were level 6 Empty God Realm experts. This brat is extremely talented. We must kill him. One of them stared at Lu Ming. Today, he will definitely die. A level 6 Empty God Realm expert said. The 4 of them charged at Lu Ming with all their might. Before they arrived, they had already launched their attacks at Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not take the attacks head-on and retreated rapidly. Where are you going? The 5 of them were in hot pursuit, closing in on Lu Ming at lightning speed. Xiao, smash. Lu Ming waved his hand and Xiao flew out. It turned into a huge metal ball with a diameter of 10 meters and smashed towards a level 5 empty God Realm expert. Not good. The level 5 empty God Realm expert knew how powerful Xiao was and retreated rapidly to avoid Xiao's attack. Be careful. This metal ball has the strength of a level 6 empty God Realm expert. A level 5 empty God Realm expert warned. It's alright. I will block this metal ball. You guys go and kill that brat. A level 6 empty God Realm expert held a steel whip and charged towards Xiao. As he lashed out with the whip, the space whistled and the power was shocking. Xiao also smashed towards the expert. Boom! There was a terrifying explosion. As a result, the level 6 empty God Realm expert spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated rapidly. Now that Xiao had advanced to level 4 empty God Realm, its combat strength had increased tremendously. It was not something a level 6 empty God Realm expert could compare with. How can this be? The other 3 experts' faces changed drastically as disbelief was written all over their faces. They originally wanted to kill Lu Ming and were not prepared for the metal ball. Boom! After injuring the level 6 empty God Realm expert, Xiao smashed towards the 2 level 5 empty God Realm experts. The 2 of them were not prepared at all and were hit directly. After 2 blood-curdling screams, they died on the spot. Not good. Retreat. The level 6 empty God Realm expert's face changed drastically as he retreated rapidly and distanced himself from Xiao. Retreat, retreat. At this moment, a roar came from the sky. It was from a level 9 empty God Realm expert from the Zhengtian army. The Zhengtian army was no match for Yuan Luo Hall. The difference in numbers was too great. Once they exchanged blows, many experts died. In just a short while, about 100 experts had died. You want to leave? Today, none of you will leave. A cold voice sounded as several terrifying figures charged towards the level 9 empty God Realm expert from the Zhengtian army. Boom! The 2 sides collided. The figures from Yuan Luo Hall were all level 9 empty God Realm experts. There were a total of 3 of them. 3 against 1, there was no suspense at all. In just a few moves, the Zhengtian army expert let out an unwilling roar and was killed in the air. Kill, leave no one alive. A level 9 empty God Realm expert from Yuan Luo Hall gave the order. Charge, charge out. Gather together and charge out. Someone from the Zhengtian army roared. The remaining 300 or so people charged in one direction and gathered together. Xiao, let's go. Lu Ming waved his hand and called Xiao as he charged towards the group. Right now, they could only survive if they worked together. Otherwise, they would all die. Lu Ming and Xiao charged towards the Zhengtian army. Kill that brat. You must kill him. The level 6 empty God Realm expert who had been injured by Xiao roared. His killing intent was like a blade. Whoosh! Then, a terrifying blade light slashed towards Lu Ming. Baidu search 81 Chinese Networko. No advertising message. Chapter 26:10. Lu Ming was just about to fly toward the righteous army when a terrifying saber light slashed at him. The saber light was deathly pale. Before it even arrived, Lu Ming's heart was already pounding and his hair stood on end. Danger, extreme danger. This was definitely the attack of an extremely terrifying existence. Their strength far surpassed the 6th level of the Void God Realm, and perhaps even the 7th level. A terrifying figure had set his eyes on Lu Ming. Not good. Lu Ming could only think of one thing. It was already too late to defend. At this moment, Xiao appeared on Lu Ming's left side and turned into a shield. Boom! The blade light slashed Qiuqiu's body and directly pierced through the shield that Qiuqiu had transformed into. However, Qiuqiu had already absorbed the majority of the saber light's power. The remaining power was very limited, and its speed had greatly decreased. Lu Ming finally reacted. His meteor spear swept out and blocked that saber light. Qiuqiu. Lu Ming's heart tightened. Qiuqiu had been pierced through. Would it be all right? In the next moment, Lu Ming let out a sigh of relief. Qiuqiu's body turned back into a ball. With a leap, it returned to Lu Ming's shoulder as if nothing had happened. This fellow is truly amazing. Lu Ming sighed inside. Then he increased his speed and charged toward the righteous army. There's such a treasure. Not far away, a silver-haired elder stared at Qiuqiu with a blazing gaze. This silver-haired elder held a silver saber in his hand. That saber attack just now had been unleashed by him. With a swift movement, he dashed toward Lu Ming at high speed. At this time, Lu Ming had already met up with the righteous army. Nearly 300 people had gathered together. They were like a sharp saber as they charged forward with all their strength. Kill, kill, kill. Around them, more than 1,000 people from the Yuan Luo Palace surrounded Lu Ming and the rest, attacking them continuously. Terrifying attacks were launched at them. Lu Ming was also in the crowd, brandishing his spear to block the attacks. Brat, die. That silver-haired elder stared at Lu Ming and continuously slashed his saber at Lu Ming. Luckily, Qiuqiu had turned into a shield and protected Lu Ming's vitals. This was how he was able to block the opponent's attacks. Otherwise, Lu Ming would have been in danger. Charge! 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 The righteous army charged forward with their lives. Some people had even burned their divine power. Although the righteous army's people continued to die in battle, it was effective. After a while, they finally broke out of the encirclement and flew towards the ocean. Don't chase, that matter is more important. A 9th level Kaiukia 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 Kaiu, it should be here. Kukiukwikwikyukiu's group. A level 9 empty god realm expert instructed. Over 1,000 people from the Yuan Luo Palace gathered and attacked at the same time. One attack after another was directed at Chen Jinghuang. The Chen gold mine exploded and shattered rocks flew everywhere. A large amount of the mine was sent flying and scattered everywhere. However, the people from the Yuan Luo Palace did not even look at it. Their target did not seem to be the Chen gold mine. Lu Ming and the others flew at top speed. They only slowed down when they realized that the people from the Yuan Luo Palace were not chasing after them. Damn it! Damn it! Many people roared. This time, they had suffered a great loss. Out of more than 400 people, only about 200 were left. It was a great loss. This time, they did not expect that the Yuan Luo Palace would suddenly mobilize such a strong force to attack the Chen Jinghuang vein when they were initially concentrating on attacking the Seven Stars Island. Send the news to the Seven Stars Island. We must take revenge. Someone gritted his teeth and sent the news to the Seven Stars Island. Boom! At this moment, a beam of light shot up into the sky and pierced through the clouds. That is, everyone looked in that direction in shock. That direction was clearly the direction of the Chen gold mine. It's the Chen gold mine. What's going on? Someone was puzzled. Such a shocking phenomenon. We can see it clearly even from 100,000 miles away. There must be a rare treasure, or an expert's cave, or some ruins. Someone guessed. That must be it. I understand now. The Yuan Luo Palace must have received some information. Their original target was the Chen gold mine. The attack on the Seven Stars Island was just an illusion. Someone roared. Everyone was moved. Perhaps it was true. Perhaps the attack on the Seven Stars Island by the Yuan Luo Palace was just an illusion to confuse them. Not only could they restrain the forces on the Seven Stars Island, they could also lure away some experts from the Chen gold mine. Then, the Yuan Luo Palace would gather their forces and take over the Chen gold mine. No, report this to the higher-ups, report it to the general. Someone immediately sent the news out with a message transmission jade talisman. Then, they decided to send people to the Chen gold mine to investigate. At this moment, the Chen gold mine had completely changed. The mine had disappeared and a cave entrance appeared under it. A beam of light shot out from the cave entrance and pierced the sky. It only disappeared after half an hour. A sky god's cave dwelling, ha ha ha, there really is a sky god's cave dwelling. Quick, send the news to the palace master. A bulky man laughed wildly. The others were also full of smiles as their eyes flashed with a fiery light. A sky god's cave dwelling, it was a cave dwelling left behind by a sky god. It was simply unimaginable. The chaotic galaxy was vast and there were countless cultivators. There were also countless divine spirits that had reached the empty god realm. However, there were only a few who had reached the sky god realm in history. Now, the sky god that everyone knew was the pavilion master of the Cloud Peak Pavilion, the strongest force in the chaotic galaxy. That was the only known existence of the heavenly god realm in the chaotic star river. One could imagine how valuable a cave dwelling left behind by a sky god was. Even if the sky god had left some useless things in the cave dwelling, it would still be a supreme treasure to others. The people of the Yuan Luo Palace immediately spread the news. Not only did they inform the palace master of the Yuan Luo Palace, but they also gathered more experts of the Yuan Luo Palace. Not long after, groups of experts flew over from the sky. They were all experts of the Yuan Luo Palace. They had rushed over to increase the strength of this place. 100,000 miles away, there was also a group of people from the righteous army that had met up with Lu Ming's group. They had already spread the news and informed the other party of their location. What's going on? Someone from the righteous army asked. The Qin Jinghuang mine was ambushed by the Yuan Luo Palace. They sent out more than 1,000 empty gods and more than 200 of us were killed. Only these people escaped. Someone explained helplessly. Damn the Yuan Luo Palace. Someone from the righteous army roared. Why did the Yuan Luo Palace ambush the Qin Jinghuang mine? Someone asked. There should be a treasure on the Qin Jinghuang island. As soon as someone explained, a few figures flew over from afar. They were the people that had been sent to observe the Qin Jinghuang mine. A cave dwelling has appeared on the Qin Jinghuang mine. A large number of experts from the Yuan Luo Palace have already gathered there. Someone who had gone to inquire about the news said. Chapter 26:11. What? A cave? So that's how it is. It must be the cave of an expert. The Yuan Luo Palace must be after this cave. Humph, they can forget about monopolizing it. We'll wait here for the general to arrive and kill our way back. Okay. The righteous army was shocked to hear that there was a cave of an expert in the Qin Jinghuang mine. They had excavated the Qin Jinghuang mine for so many years, but they hadn't found anything. Thus, the righteous sky army began to wait there. The Qin Jinghuang mine. You guys, leave a group to guard the outside. The rest of you, follow me in and explore. A burly old man ordered. Yes. Everyone bowed and accepted the order. They looked at the old man with respect in their eyes. This old man was a top expert of the Yuan Luo Palace, a terrifying true god expert. Every true god was a top expert in the Yuan Luo Palace. They ruled over a region and had the power to decide life and death. Under the old man's orders, the people of the Yuan Luo Palace left a group of people to guard the cave while the rest followed the old man into the cave. 100,000 miles away, Lu Ming and the others were waiting quietly. Lu Ming was also resting on the surface of the sea. Crack. 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 Xiaofan opened its mouth and bit with all its might. Its eyes stared in the direction of the Chen Jinghuang mine. What do you want to do? Lu Ming asked. Crack. 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 Xiaofan's large mouth kept on biting as its teeth collided. It even extended a tentacle and pointed in the direction of the Chen Jinghuang mine with a look of desire. You want to go to the Chen Jinghuang mine? Lu Ming asked. Crack. Crack. Xiaofan's round body rolled a few times. Okay, I'll go with you, but be careful. Lu Ming said after some thought. He was also curious and wanted to see what was going on with the cave of the Chen Jinghuang mine. Xiaofan turned into a bracelet and wore it on Lu Ming's hand. Lu Ming didn't tell anyone else and headed for the Chen Jinghuang mine alone. 100,000 miles was soon covered. So many experts. As they approached the Chen gold mine, Lu Ming discovered that there were at least a few thousand Yuan Luo Hall experts on the Chen Gold Island. With so many experts around, it's impossible for us to approach them head-on. What should we do? Right, from the sea, Lu Ming's eyes lit up, and he dove into the sea. He dove down to a depth of 1,000 meters and approached Chen Jindao. No one from the Yuan Luo Palace was guarding the sea because the entire Chen Jin Island was made up of Chen gold mines. They weren't worried about it. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at the seabed of Chen Jindao. At this point, Xiaofan directly flew out, opened its mouth wide, and bit at Chen Jindao. Whoosh! Xiaofan's speed was extremely fast. Soon, a large hole was bitten out of Chen Jindao's body. Then, it kept moving forward and soon, a passageway appeared. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Perhaps they could use this to enter Chen Jindao's cave. Lu Ming looked delighted as he followed closely behind Xiaofan. Crack crack crack, Xiaofan's speed increased as it moved deeper into the island. Originally, Chen Jindao's mines were extremely hard. Even an expert would find it difficult to dig a passageway. Moreover, it would cause a huge commotion and the experts of the Yuan Luo Palace on the island would discover it. However, Xiaofan didn't make any noise as it swallowed the Chen Jin mine. After an unknown period of time. Xiaofan, be careful. There's movement ahead. Lu Ming whispered. Because there were bursts of explosions ahead, as if a great battle was taking place. Xiaofan slowed down a little. When it bit down on the mines, it didn't make any noise. After a while, the mines seemed to have been dug through and a gap appeared. Lu Ming looked outside through the gap and took in the scenery outside. There was a huge building outside that was built with a type of black rock. It was so huge that one couldn't see the end of it with a glance. At the front of the building, there was a large door. At this moment, a group of people was attacking the door. However, there was clearly a great formation on the door. Rays of light flashed and the group of people couldn't break the formation no matter how hard they tried. Especially one of the old men. His aura was extremely terrifying and gave off a terrifying feeling. Every move of his exploded with terrifying power that bombarded the great formation on the door. What a terrifying expert! Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Even though there was still some distance between them, the aura emitted by the old man still made him fearful. The Yuan Luo Palace already has such a terrifying expert. This cave dwelling is definitely not small. Lu Ming thought. However, the experts of the Yuan Luo Palace couldn't break the great formation no matter how hard they tried. Damn it! The defensive power of this great formation is too strong. Even the surrounding walls have a great formation. It's impossible to break it open. Now, we can only wait for the palace master and the others to come and find a way to break it open. After attacking for a while, the old man stopped and said unhappily. The people of the Yuan Luo Palace were also helpless and could only stop and wait. "Qiuqiu, let's leave," Lu Ming whispered to Qiuqiu. Then, Qiuqiu turned around and left the place. Then, it approached the building. Not long after, the vein disappeared and a pitch-black wall blocked their path. This wall was the wall of the building. Lu Ming took out a divine weapon battle sword and slashed it on the wall. However, there wasn't a single mark. The stone of this wall is very special. It's sturdy and indestructible. There's also the power of the Great Formation on it. It's impossible to break it open. Looks like we can only stop here. Lu Ming sighed. This cave dwelling must be extraordinary if it could attract the Yuan Luo Palace. If they could sneak in and obtain some treasures, they would definitely be rich. Lu Ming was also tempted. Unfortunately, there was nothing he could do about it. At this moment, Qiuqiu opened its mouth and bit at the wall. Crack! A small piece of the wall was bitten off. This works. Lu Ming was tongue-tied. There was a great formation on the wall. Even that terrifying old man of the Yuan Luo Palace couldn't break it open. Yet, Qiuqiu could bite it open. It had completely ignored the Great Formation. Now, Lu Ming only had one thought. Qiuqiu's teeth were too good. Crack! Crack! Qiuqiu bit with all its might. Although it wasn't biting fast and could only bite off a small piece each time, it would definitely bite through the wall and enter the building. Lu Ming waited expectantly. At this moment, more and more experts from the Yuan Luo Palace had arrived at the Chen gold mine. And more experts from the Zhengtian army had arrived 100,000 miles away. However, neither side made a move. They were also waiting for the arrival of the strongest experts from both sides. Baidu search Xing 81 Chinese Networko. No advertising message. Chapter 26:12. The headquarters of Yuan Luo Hall was situated on a giant planet. There was a giant city on this planet. Two figures were discussing something in a great hall in the city. One of them was a middle-aged man who looked somewhat similar to Kong Long. He was the Yuan Luo Hall master, Kong Ji. The other was an elder with 3 eyes between his brows. He had long golden hair and was also from the 3-eyed race. He was of the same race as the foreign tribe's divine ancestor. This elder's status in Yuan Luo Hall was not to be underestimated. He was a grand elder and was extremely powerful. He was on the same level as the Yuan Luo Hall master. His name was Mo Kansas. The two of them were the strongest in Yuan Luo Hall. A sky god's cave dwelling. I didn't expect there to be a sky god's cave dwelling on northern Shang planet. Elder Mo Kan of the 3-eyed race had a fiery look in his eyes. I thought it would at most be a true god's cave dwelling. I didn't expect it to be a sky god's cave dwelling. This is a great opportunity. The Yuan Luo Hall master's eyes were also fiery. Hall master, I'm afraid that Fa Ming of the righteous army has also received the news. I'm afraid he will rush to northern Shang planet. This is troublesome. Mo Kan frowned. Fa Ming was the name of the ancestor of techniques. That ant from a minor 1,000 world. If we had known earlier, we would have killed him back then and there wouldn't be such trouble now. Murderous intent flashed in the Yuan Luo Hall master's eyes when he mentioned the ancestor of techniques. Unfortunately, he has already matured. Even if the two of us join forces, we may not be able to kill him. Mo Kan said helplessly. When we obtain the treasures of the sky god's cave dwelling and our strength increases greatly, we will definitely kill him. Moreover, I already have a plan this time. That old man Fu Heng still owes me a favor. I have already sent him a message. He will delay Fa Ming for a while. The Yuan Luo Hall Master said. Hall Master is wise. I am relieved with Fu Heng's help. Hall Master, let us depart now. Mo Ken said joyfully. Let's go. The Yuan Luo Hall Master and Mo Ken led a group of Yuan Luo Hall experts towards northern Shang planet. Righteous Army, Righteous Star. An expert's cave dwelling? Since the Yuan Luo Palace has placed such importance on it, let's go take a look. Within a palace, the ancestor of techniques also received the news. He took a step forward and was about to head towards the teleportation portal to planet Northern Shang. Brother Fa Ming, where are you going in such a hurry? Right at this moment, an aged voice rang out, and a figure suddenly appeared in the sky. This figure was an old man with silver-white skin. Clearly, he was not a human. The old man wore a long white robe. He stood above the clouds and smiled at the ancestor of techniques. Fu Heng. The ancestor of technique frowned, and said, Fu Heng, what wind blew you to my righteous army? Brother Fa Ming, it's been tens of thousands of years since we last met. I'm here today to play a game of chess with you. Fu Heng smiled. You want to play chess with me? Another day, I'm not free today. The ancestor of law said. I can only play this game today. If it were any other day, I wouldn't be able to play this game. Fu Heng smiled and stepped forward. He arrived before the ancestor of technique and blocked his path. Kong Ji asked you to come. The ancestor of technique's expression darkened. Back then, I owed him a huge favor. I have no choice but to repay this favor. Fu Heng sighed. It seems like the cave abode in planet Northern Shang is truly extraordinary. To think that Kong Ji would ask you to delay me so that I can't rush to planet Northern Shang. Given how smart the ancestor of technique was, he figured out everything after thinking about it. Brother Fa Ming, let's play another game. I'll leave once the game is over. Fu Heng smiled and waved his hand. A huge flag appeared in the void. The ancestor of technique frowned. Fu Heng was extremely powerful. If they really fought, he was not confident at all. In fact, there was a high chance that he would lose to the other party. Instantly, thoughts flashed through the ancestor of technique's mind. Alright, since you're so interested, let's play a game. The ancestor of technique was helpless as well. He sat cross-legged in the air, facing Fu Heng across the chessboard. At the same time, he sent a message out, informing the people of the righteous army that before he arrived at planet Northern Shang, they were not to interfere no matter what happened. Then, he began to play chess with Fu Heng. Planet Northern Shang, Chen Jinghuang Vane. The Yuan Luo Hall Master, Kong Ji, and the others arrived. Greetings, Hall Master. The true Immortal Realm Elder from before and the others from the Yuan Luo Hall bowed. How is it? Have you all investigated this cave abode? The Yuan Luo Hall Master asked. Hall Master, we've already investigated it. However, there's a powerful defensive formation outside the cave abode. I can't break it with my cultivation. I'm afraid that we'll need the help of the Hall Master and the Grand Elder to break it. The true Immortal Realm Elder reported. It's expected that there's a great formation. Let's go. The Yuan Luo Hall Master led a group of experts into the cave abode and arrived before the door of the building. Boom! The Yuan Luo Hall Master attacked right away. A terrifying attack blasted at the door. Rays of light immediately flickered on the door, blocking the attack of the Yuan Luo Hall Master. Boom! With a violent explosion, the great formation of the door shook violently. The strength of the Yuan Luo Hall Master was much stronger than the true Immortal Realm Elder. The true Immortal Realm Elder was only at the first level true Immortal Realm, while the Yuan Luo Hall Master had already reached the fourth level true Immortal Realm. It's effective. The Hall Master is so powerful. The eyes of the others from the Yuan Luo Hall lit up as they flattered the hall master. Let's attack together and break the great formation as soon as possible. The Yuan Luo Hall master ordered. Then, the experts of the Yuan Luo Hall attacked together. However, this great formation was indeed very sturdy. Even if their attacks were effective, they couldn't break it in a short period of time. They needed to slowly grind away the energy of the great formation before they could break it. It would take a long time. On the other side, Ball was still biting the wall. At this moment, a huge hole had been bitten into the wall. It was at least a meter deep. This wall is really sturdy. Lu Ming was also speechless. Now, he could only wait patiently. With his cultivation, there was nothing he could do to help. Just like that, a day passed. The wall had already been bitten 3 meters deep by Ball. Crack! With Ball's bite, the wall was finally bitten through. It's done. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Crack! Crack! Ball also became spirited and bit harder. Soon, a hole appeared and the wall was completely broken through. On the other side, dim light came from the other side. Lu Ming's body shrunk and rushed into the hole in the wall. In the next moment, he appeared in a passageway. This passageway was surrounded by pitch-black walls. They had directly dug through the wall in the middle of the passageway. Lu Ming identified the direction and then strode into the depths of the passageway. Baidu search Xing 81 Chinese network. No advertising message. Chapter 26:13. The passage was a few hundred meters long. After walking through the passage, Lu Ming found a courtyard. It turned out that the passage just now was just a small path on the side. This was the main courtyard. Boom! Boom! A series of explosions came from outside the courtyard. It was obvious that the entrance of the building was outside the courtyard. The Yuan Luo Hall master and the others were attacking the formation of the entrance. They would never have thought that before they could break the formation of the entrance, someone had already entered the building. I have to speed up. Lu Ming's figure flashed and he went into the courtyard. There was a large hall in the courtyard. Lu Ming immediately looked around. The large hall was empty and there was nothing. Lu Ming was a little disappointed. However, there was an inner hall after the large hall. Lu Ming walked into the inner hall. The inner hall was a little messy and there was a huge platform. Lu Ming looked carefully and recognized that this platform should be used to forge weapons. Some materials were casually piled up in the corners. Crunch! Crunch! Xiaofan had already started eating. It stretched out 2 tentacles and grabbed the materials and started eating. This is star silver, black sky gold. Lu Ming swept his gaze across and discovered 2 types of extremely precious refining materials. Star silver and black sky gold were both materials that could be used to forge middle-grade divine artifacts. They were very precious. Wait! Lu Ming rushed over and quickly grabbed the star silver and black sky gold in his hands and put them away. These were only the materials that Lu Ming knew. There were many others that Lu Ming didn't know. They probably weren't of low grades. Lu Ming and Xiaofan swept these materials away like a whirlwind. Crunch! Crunch! Xiaofan glared at Lu Ming, as if saying that Lu Ming had snatched its food. These materials aren't cheap. Take them out and exchange them for something else. Lu Ming chuckled. Forging materials that could be used to forge middle-grade divine artifacts were definitely priceless. However, other than these materials, they did not find anything else of value. Lu Ming speculated that this should really be the cave residence of a powerhouse. That powerhouse was refining tools here, and some of the materials that he didn't need were left in the corner. These were the materials that Lu Ming had collected before. However, the item that the expert didn't care about was still shockingly valuable to others. Lu Ming looked around happily, but didn't find anything else. Lu Ming left the inner hall and returned to the outer hall. He discovered that there was a corridor at the side of the outer hall. Following the corridor, he arrived at another courtyard. In front of the courtyard, there was a tall building. However, the entrance to the courtyard was closed. There was also a grand array on the entrance. Lu Ming tried and realized that he couldn't enter at all. He was blocked by the array. Looks like we have to take a detour again. Lu Ming pondered for a moment, then went back the way he had come. He arrived at the side passage and exited through the opening Xiao had bitten open. How can I block this opening? Lu Ming pondered. Later, if Yuan Luo Hall Master and the others broke through the array and entered, they would probably find this opening. Xiao seemed to have seen through Lu Ming's thoughts. It opened its mouth and spat out a sticky black liquid that looked like a black liquid metal. The black liquid metal poured into the opening and rapidly solidified, completely blocking the opening. This, Lu Ming was a little dazed. He speculated that this black liquid metal was the impurities that Xiao had eaten. Anyway, the opening was blocked. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Then, Xiao continued to gnaw on the Chen Jinquang vein and went inside the building. Estimating that it had passed the entrance, Xiao began to bite the black wall again. A few days later, Xiao bit through the wall. Lu Ming entered through the opening and found that he had entered the building behind the entrance. There were secret rooms here. Lu Ming began to search. At first, several secret rooms were empty. He did not discover anything until he came to the largest secret room. There were several shelves placed around the room, and on the shelves, there were some jade bottles. Godly pills. Lu Ming's eyes glittered. Godly pills were the most useful for martial gods. There were actually some godly pills here. Lu Ming picked up a jade bottle and saw runes carved on it. These runes were used to seal the bottle to prevent the pills from leaking out. However, many years had passed, thus the power of the seal had weakened. Lu Ming soon broke the seal with the Tao of Ruler. He then opened the jade bottle. A strong medicinal fragrance immediately filled the air. There are more pills. Lu Ming was overjoyed. However, Lu Ming had no idea what the pills in the jade bottle were called, nor what they were used for. Lu Ming knew nothing about the pills. Screw it, I'll put them away first. I'll identify them later. With a wave of his hands, Lu Ming put away all the jade bottles. There were more than 50 jade bottles. After putting them away, Lu Ming inspected the secret room. There was a dark mark at the center of the room. This must be a secret room used to refine pills. The mark at the center must be where the cauldron was placed. Lu Ming speculated. Even though Lu Ming was not familiar with godly pills, he was an expert in pill alchemy in the heaven realm, thus he was familiar with the steps of refining pills. He was able to deduce many things by observing the layout of the secret room. It was obvious that this was a secret room used to refine pills, but the owner of the room had left with the cauldron and most of the pills. Perhaps some of the pills that were not important to the owner of the cave had been left behind. They were the pills that Lu Ming had found before. However, the owner of the cave was probably not to be underestimated. Even if the owner of the cave didn't like them, it didn't mean that Lu Ming didn't like them. After walking out of the secret room, Lu Ming began to search again. Then, he found a passage. However, this passage was also set up with a formation, so Lu Ming couldn't pass through it at all. This cave is really big. There are more inside. Let's continue. Lu Ming was full of smiles. This cave had obviously been abandoned by its owner. Almost all the good things had been taken away, but even if there were some left behind that were not important to the owner of the cave, they were still precious treasures. Lu Ming went out through the hole they came in from. Xiaofan repeated the same trick and spat out liquid metal to block the hole. Then, they continued to dig deeper into the cave. After walking for a while, Xiaofan continued to bite a hole in the stone wall, and Lu Ming entered. This time, the place they entered was a little special. They seemed to have entered a passage. The passage was very large, at least 100 meters in diameter, and there were smooth walls on all sides. In front of the passage, it was pitch black, and they didn't know where it led to. Lu Ming muttered to himself for a moment, and then walked along the passage. Hoo! Suddenly, there was a terrifying whistling sound in the passage. Then, there was a strong suction force in the passage, and Lu Ming was sucked in. Baidu search Xing 81 Chinese Networko. No advertising message. Chapter 26:14. Not good. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. The suction force in front of the passage was too strong. Lu Ming was not prepared at all and was sucked in at once. Swish! Lu Ming was like a small boat in a huge wave, drifting with the current and being thrown out. Soon, the passage came to an end. However, there was an even larger passage at the end of the passage. The passage that Lu Ming was in was just a branch. The two passages converged together. Lu Ming was directly thrown into this larger passageway. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the larger passage was at least a few thousand meters in diameter and was filled with endless gales that blew in one direction. It was because of the gales that it produced such a terrifying suction force. The endless gales blew on Lu Ming's body like sharp blades, cutting Lu Ming's body and causing waves of stinging pain. Lu Ming hurriedly circulated his sovereign power and covered his body to resist the attack of the gales. Whoosh whoosh, the gales whistled as Lu Ming was carried forward by the gales. In the blink of an eye, he had flown over 100 li. No, I can't be carried like this forever. Lu Ming's mind raced as he mustered all his strength and rushed to the side of the passage. The side of the passage was full of bumpy rocks. When Lu Ming approached the side of the passage, Lu Ming grabbed a protruding rock and finally stabilized his body. There's actually a hurricane passage in the depths of this cave. Where does it lead? Lu Ming pondered. Could it be that the true core of the cave was in the depths of the passage and that he had to pass through the hurricane passage to reach the core of the cave? This was very likely. Many experts would set up formations or traps around their cave abodes to prevent others from entering. This hurricane passage was very likely set up by the cave abode's owner. Go along the side of the passage and take a look. Lu Ming made up his mind. Since he had come here, he did not want to give up. Immediately, Lu Ming followed the side of the passage and climbed the protruding rocks, slowly heading deeper into the passage. However, Lu Ming realized that the closer he got to the depths of the passage, the stronger the gales became. Lu Ming was very draining to resist the hurricane's power. Every once in a while, Lu Ming had to stop to rest and recover his strength. Just like that, Lu Ming walked for 3 days but still did not reach the end of the passage. This passage seemed to be endless with no end. Roar! At this moment, Lu Ming heard a beast roar. Beast roar? What's going on? Could there be desolate beasts or divine beasts here? Lu Ming revealed a puzzled look, but in the next moment, his eyes widened. This was because he saw a huge desolate beast soaring in the hurricane and flying toward Lu Ming. This was a strange desolate beast. Its body was like a goshawk and it was covered in green feathers. However, its head was that of a lion. It was Lu Ming's first time seeing such a desolate beast with a lion's head and a bird's body. This desolate beast was completely unafraid of the gales. With a flap of its wings, it flew against the wind. Its gaze was like lightning as it swept towards Lu Ming. Swish! Swish! It flapped its wings a few times and flew towards Lu Ming at an extremely fast speed. Its sharp claws swiped at Lu Ming. The wind howled and it was terrifyingly sharp. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He grabbed the rock with one hand and the meteor spear with the other. He stabbed out. Dang! The meteor spear stabbed at the other party's sharp claws, producing the sound of metal clashing. The lion-headed harpy was sent flying, but Lu Ming's spear also trembled violently, causing Lu Ming's arm to turn numb. What terrifying strength! Lu Ming's heart turned cold. He did not dare to be careless. Roar! The lion-headed harpy retreated and spread its wings to stabilize its body. Its eyes turned even colder. With a flap of its wings, it charged towards Lu Ming like a gust of wind. Its wings were like blades as they slashed towards Lu Ming. Swish! 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 Lu Ming held his spear with one hand and stabbed out rays of spear light as he engaged in a fierce battle with the lion-headed harpy. In a blink of an eye, both sides had exchanged dozens of blows. Finally, Lu Ming stabbed the lion-headed harpy's lower abdomen. The lion-headed harpy roared angrily as it retreated frantically. Feathers fell from the sky as it was swept away by the gales and disappeared at the end of the tunnel. Roar! Roar! The lion-headed harpy was infuriated. It constantly roared and flapped its wings rapidly. Swish! Swish! Wind blades formed and were sharper than ordinary divine weapons as they shot towards Lu Ming. Not good. Lu Ming did not hesitate and activated the battle character art to double his combat strength. Now, Lu Ming could activate the battle character art's double combat strength after activating it twice. After activating the double combat strength, his strength increased greatly. With a shake of his spear, hundreds of rays of spear light were shot out, destroying the wind blades one by one. At the same time, the spear swept towards the lion-headed harpy along with the wind. Lu Ming's attack was already astonishingly fast. With the wind, it became even faster. The lion-headed harpy wanted to dodge, but it was too late. It was directly hit by the spear. Bang! The lion-headed eagle-body beast exploded. What surprised Lu Ming was that after the lion-headed harpy exploded, there was not a drop of blood. It directly turned into energy and disappeared. Fake? It's not a real creature. Lu Ming was also stunned. Could it be that it was condensed by the array? However, this lion-headed harpy was too real. It was no different from a real one. Lu Ming could not distinguish it just now. After killing this lion-headed eagle beast, Lu Ming continued to move forward along the side. However, this time, he did not go far before he heard a few roars. Then, Lu Ming saw the lion-headed harpies again. Moreover, this time, there was not one, but three. The three lion-headed harpies pounced on Lu Ming as soon as they saw Lu Ming. Then let's fight. Lu Ming's eyes were cold. He waved his spear and fought with the three lion-headed harpies. This time, they exchanged more than 100 moves. In this hurricane passage, Lu Ming had to resist the wind and it was difficult for him to exert his full strength. However, the lion-headed harpies were like fish in water. They could exert their strength to the extreme. Therefore, even if the lion-headed harpies' level was not high, Lu Ming still spent a lot of effort to kill them. In this kind of environment, it's not bad to use it to train myself. Lu Ming smiled slightly. In this kind of adversity, Lu Ming had to go all out against the lion-headed harpies. He had to use his god's power and the battle formula to the extreme. After that exchange, Lu Ming felt that he had gained some understanding of the god's power and the battle formula. Although it was not much, it was still much faster than boring and bitter cultivation. Afterwards, Lu Ming found a large protruding rock and used it to stabilize his body. He circulated his energy to recover. Every time he used the battle formula, he needed to rest and recover. He could not use it continuously. Several hours later, Lu Ming had fully recovered and continued deeper into the passage. However, he did not go very far before several lion-headed harpies appeared and began to fight with Lu Ming. After exchanging more than 100 moves, Lu Ming finally managed to kill the lion-headed harpies. He had gained more understanding of the God's path and the battle formula. Baidu search Dong 81 Chinese Networko. No advertising message. Chapter 26:15. Just like that, Lu Ming continued to advance and kill along the way. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. There was still no end to the passage after 3 months. There were two main reasons for this. Firstly, this passage was too long. The second reason was that Lu Ming was advancing very slowly. This was because he would encounter the lion-headed eagle beasts every once in a while. Naturally, he would be slowed down. There was even one time when Lu Ming encountered more than 10 lion-head eagle beasts appearing at the same time. Lu Ming was no match for them and could only retreat against the wind. Luckily, these lion-head eagle beasts seemed to have their own territories. They stopped pursuing Lu Ming when he retreated to a certain area. Lu Ming continued to fight with the lion-head eagle beasts. Meanwhile, the Yuan Luo Hall master and the experts of the Yuan Luo Hall had finally broken the formation of the outermost door after 3 months. Crack! The door opened and the Yuan Luo Hall master and the others rushed in excitedly. They were imagining that there was a large amount of treasure waiting for them. However, it was like a basin of cold water had been poured over them. Nothing at all. They searched every nook and cranny, but it was empty. There was nothing there. The Yuan Luo Hall master's face darkened. They had also searched the passage that Lu Ming had entered previously, but that gap had been blocked by Qiuqiu. They had only scanned it casually and did not discover it. Soon, they arrived at the inner part and were blocked by the second door. Hall master, there is another door here. Perhaps we are only at the outer part of the cave, so there are no treasures here. Perhaps we can find a fortuitous encounter through this door. Great Elder Mo Ken of the Yuan Luo Hall said. That's right, the treasures must be hidden inside. We will definitely find the treasures once we break this door. The others of the Yuan Luo Hall spoke one after another. The Yuan Luo Hall master's expression turned slightly better as he said, "All right, let's work together and break this door. I will not mistreat you all when we find the treasures." "Thank you, Hall Master." The others expressed their gratitude and began to attack the door together. However, their expressions turned ugly as soon as they attacked. This was because the strength of the array formation on this door was much stronger than the first door. The first door had taken them several months to break open. This door would probably take even longer. But now that things had come to this, they had no choice but to grit their teeth and attack. In the air above the righteous sky army, the ancestor of techniques and Fu Heng were still playing chess. What they were playing was not a real game of chess. It was a game of cultivation base and intelligence. Every move was a contest between the two of them, and required a very long time. They were still playing chess with all their might. In the hurricane passage, Lu Ming was still moving forward slowly, fighting against the lion-head eagle body beast. In this way, Lu Ming entered the hurricane passage. 8 months had passed. After 8 months of continuous fighting, Lu Ming had made great progress in all aspects. Lu Ming felt that his cultivation already reached the limits of a 5-star heavenly emperor and could already break through. My cultivation has indeed improved very quickly by constantly killing and tempering myself here. Lu Ming sighed with emotion. If he cultivated step by step outside, even in a good environment like the Chaos Universe, Lu Ming would need at least 5 years to break through. This was still under the premise that he had Jing Yu's portrait to study from time to time. But here, in less than a year, Lu Ming felt that he could break through. I have to find a better place to break through. Along the way, I also saw some pits, but I can break through in those pits. Lu Ming pondered. The walls here were bumpy and uneven, and there would often be some depressions. They were like shallow caves, and were very good hiding places. Lu Ming continued forward. After a few more battles, Lu Ming finally found a pit. Entering the pit, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and circulated his cultivation to adjust his breathing. A few hours later, Lu Ming recovered to his peak state. Then, he took out a pile of divine crystals and began to break through. This time, the breakthrough came naturally. There was no difficulty at all. Several days later, Lu Ming successfully stepped into the 6-star Heavenly Emperor realm. The price was that he consumed a total of more than 10,000 divine crystals. Stepping into the 6-star Heavenly Emperor realm, Lu Ming's strength became a little stronger again. However, the further one went in the Void God realm, the greater the gap between each level. When he broke through in the Heavenly Emperor realm, it became more and more difficult to fight across levels. If he did not use the battle character tactic, Lu Ming could at most contend with a level 4 Void God realm powerhouse by relying on his Tao of Sovereign. Moreover, it was barely enough. After successfully breaking through, Lu Ming continued forward, fighting with the lion-headed eagle beast to temper himself. In a flash, 1 year and 3 months had already passed since Lu Ming entered the hurricane passageway. And at this time, Yuan Luo Hall Master and the rest were still blocked by the second door and did not break the array. Hall Master, not good. At this time, an expert from Yuan Luo Hall came in to report. What is it? Yuan Luo Hall Master asked with a gloomy face. He was in a bad mood. He had been here for more than a year, but until now, he had not obtained anything. If this went on, it would be troublesome when Fu Heng could not hold the ancestor of technique back. Hall Master, the walkabout sect leader has brought people here. The expert from Yuan Luo Hall reported. That old man Situ, Yuan Luo Hall Master gritted his teeth. Brother Kong, you are too unkind. There is an expert's cave here and you want to take it for yourself without informing me. At this time, a cold voice sounded and a group of people rushed in. The leader was a skinny middle-aged man. This person was the walkabout sect leader, Situ Haonan. Brother Situ, you have misunderstood. There is a large array here. I originally wanted to break the array and inform you. Yuan Luo Hall Master said with a fake smile. Break the array and inform me? Situ Haonan sneered, Brother Kong, no matter how you put it, we're still allies. We joined hands to deal with the righteous army, and my walkabout sect helped you hold back quite a few of their experts. That's why you had the chance to occupy this immortal cave. So my walkabout sect also wants a share of this immortal cave. Brother Kong, do you have any objections? How much do you want? Yuan Luo Hall Master said. Half. The treasures inside, we will each take half. Situ Haonan said. Half? Yuan Luo Hall Master's face darkened and said, Brother Situ, your appetite is too big. Too big? Huh. Situ Haonan sneered and said, if I turn and leave now and attract Fa Ming, I'm afraid you won't even get half. Yuan Luo Hall Master's face turned ugly. Everything was for benefits. Yuan Luo Hall and the walkabout sect had only joined hands for benefits. Now that an expert's cave was in front of them, their relationship was no longer as friendly. He had no doubt that Situ Haonan would do anything if he refused. Chapter 26:16. The Yuan Luo Hall Master squeezed out a smile and said, Brother Situ must be joking. All right, half it is. However, the great formation here is very sturdy and difficult to break. Next, the experts of the walkabout sect will have to attack together. Of course. Situ Haonan smiled. Immediately, the experts of the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect joined forces to attack the Great Formation. With the two of them working together, their speed increased greatly. It only took a month to break the Great Formation and open the door. Let's go. The experts from both sides rushed into the door, ready to plunder the treasures. But after entering, they were dumbfounded. It was clean and smooth, and there was nothing inside. They came to the place where Lu Ming took the pills. There were a few shelves here, but there was still nothing on the shelves. Completely empty. The Yuan Luo Hall master's face was gloomy. His chest heaved up and down, and he almost vomited blood. Could it be that this cave dwelling was empty, and the master of the cave dwelling did not leave anything behind? It should not be. This was the cave dwelling of a heavenly god. Logically speaking, even if such a figure left, he would take away some valuable treasures, but he would still leave behind some unimportant items. They were not important to heavenly gods, but to them, they might be priceless treasures. But how could there be nothing? Search carefully. The Yuan Luo Hall master roared. They searched inside and out, but they couldn't find a single strand of hair. Finally, they came to the depths of this area. There was a passage here blocked by an extremely powerful formation. There's more inside. Perhaps, the depths of the cave dwelling are inside? Perhaps, the treasures are inside? The Yuan Luo Hall master and the others could not help but have such thoughts to comfort themselves. Then, they had no choice but to continue working hard and attack the Great Formation. However, the Great Formation here was even more astonishing. It was much stronger than the previous Great Formation. Even if the experts of the Walkabout sect joined forces, it would take a long time to break it open. Time passed quickly. It had already been 2 years since Lu Ming entered the Hurricane Passage. After continuous battles, Lu Ming improved very quickly. Unknowingly, his cultivation had reached the peak of a 6-star heavenly emperor. Lu Ming found another pit and began to break through to the next realm. In the end, he successfully broke through the realm, breaking through to 7-star heavenly emperor. Peak 7-star heavenly emperor, Lu Ming finally reached. The next step was to combine the 10,000 yuan into one and condense the divine flame. After condensing the divine flame, he would be able to break through to the martial god realm and enter the second step of cultivation. To the current Lu Ming, 10,000 elements returning to one and condensing divine fire was not particularly difficult. When Lu Ming arrived in the Your Wilds universe, his minor world had already fused with the Your Wilds universe, transforming it into pure world energy and sovereign power. Moreover, as Lu Ming's cultivation increased, the proportion of sovereign power in his body grew larger and larger. Currently, Lu Ming's sovereign power had reached 99%, and only 1% of his world energy remained. As long as he converted all the energy in his body into sovereign power, Lu Ming could start trying to combine all the origin powers and form the divine flame. This trip to the Immortal's cave helped Lu Ming save a lot of time. Continue. After the breakthrough, Lu Ming continued to move forward along the passage. Huff huff huff, rumble rumble rumble, this time, Lu Ming continued to move forward. Not only did he hear the terrifying whistling of the wind, but he also heard deafening collisions. Lu Ming continued to move forward and discovered that he had finally reached the end of the passage. At the end of the passage, there were a few passages that merged and converged. Each passage was filled with strong winds. When the winds from a few passages collided with each other, a shocking explosion could be heard. On top of that, the winds from a few passages had gathered in a larger passage, causing the wind in the passage to be shockingly strong. Lu Ming had a feeling that if he entered the passage, he would not be able to hold on for long before his body was torn apart by the wind. It seems like I have to stop here. I'm afraid I won't be able to enter the depths of the Immortal's cave. Lu Ming pondered. Huh? There's a cave here? Suddenly, Lu Ming discovered a pitch-black cave on the side of the wall. Lu Ming climbed along the wall and looked into the cave. He discovered that the cave was pitch black and bottomless. Lu Ming had not discovered a similar cave along the way. Where did this cave lead to? Lu Ming was extremely curious. After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming decided to take a look. Lu Ming circulated his sovereign power and his eyes glowed. He could see the pitch-black cave with a single glance. Lu Ming entered the cave. There was no wind in the cave. Lu Ming carefully moved forward along the cave. After several thousand meters, he reached the end of the cave. Then, Lu Ming discovered that he had arrived on a large platform. The platform was extremely wide. On one side of the platform, the whistling of the wind could be heard. Lu Ming walked over to take a look. In the direction of the platform, there was a hurricane passage. The wind there was extremely terrifying. It was many times stronger than what Lu Ming had encountered before. Lu Ming's expression was grave. He did not dare to approach the hurricane passage. He stayed away from the hurricane passage and looked at the other parts of the platform. On the other side of the platform, there was a stone door. Lu Ming pushed the door open and entered. He discovered that it was a passage. There were rooms on both sides of the passage. Oh! Could these be bedrooms? Lu Ming discovered that there were stone tables and stone beds in these rooms. However, they were very ordinary and did not contain any treasures. The next few rooms had ordinary stone tables and beds. There was nothing valuable about them. When Lu Ming came to the last room, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. There were some shelves in this room. On top of them were various weapons. Lu Ming's heart began to beat rapidly. He picked up a battle sword and inserted his sovereign power. Buzz! The battle sword began to glow. A powerful aura spread out. This is a rank 9 lower grade divine artifact. Lu Ming's breathing quickened. His eyes were burning. This was definitely a rank 9 lower grade divine artifact. One must know that the meteor spear that Lu Ming bought was only a rank 6 lower grade divine artifact. Even so, it was worth 7,000 divine crystals. A rank 9 lower grade divine artifact's price would be many times higher. It would be normal to sell it for 70,000 to 80,000 divine crystals or even 100,000 divine crystals. There are words below. Lu Ming discovered that there was a small plaque hanging on the hilt of this sword. There were words written on it. Ancient Moon Sword, rank 9 lower grade divine artifact. On the plaque, there was a line of words. It really is a rank 9 lower grade divine artifact. Lu Ming laughed and quickly put it away. He then looked at the other weapons. Clear Wind Hook, rank 9 lower grade divine artifact. Li He Saber, rank 8 lower grade divine artifact. Lu Ming looked at 6 or 7 weapons. They were all rank 7 lower grade divine artifacts and above. I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, Lu Ming muttered to himself. This time, he really struck it rich. Lu Ming did not expect that after passing through the hurricane passage, he would gain so much. 6 War Staff, rank 1 middle grade divine artifact. When Lu Ming picked up a long rod and took a look, his eyes lit up immediately. Chapter 26:17. There were even medial-grade divine artifacts here. A middle-grade divine artifact was equivalent to a true god expert. Only a true god expert could unleash the full power of a middle-grade divine artifact. Lu Ming's eyes burned even brighter. He put away the staff and sped up his search. Medial-grade divine artifacts, medial-grade divine artifacts, medial-grade divine artifacts. A moment later, Lu Ming put away all the weapons here. There were a total of 33 divine artifacts. All of them were low-grade divine artifacts or above. Any one of them was better than the meteor spear he was currently using. Among them, there were 20 low-grade divine artifacts. There were a total of 13 medial-grade divine artifacts. There were even 2 divine artifacts, the highest of which were mid-grade divine artifacts. One was a battle sword, and the other was a battle saber. How many divine crystals could a mid-grade divine artifact be sold for? Lu Ming couldn't estimate at all. Even factions like the Righteous Army, Yuan Luo Palace, and the Walkabout sect couldn't take out divine artifacts of this level. They were too precious. Lu Ming had no idea how many divine crystals these 33 divine artifacts were worth. In short, he knew that he had struck it rich. He wouldn't have to worry about resources for a period of time. His disciples, family, friends, and members of the Dragon Alliance wouldn't have to worry about resources either. I can exchange for the meteor spear now. Lu Ming was all smiles. There were several spears among the 33 divine artifacts. The highest grade was a mid-grade divine artifact of 4th grade. There was also a low-grade divine artifact of 8th grade and 9th grade. Lu Ming picked up a low-grade divine artifact and swung it a few times. He felt that it was quite good. After taking all the divine artifacts, Lu Ming wandered around a bit. After confirming that there were no more treasures here, Lu Ming left. Forward. With my cultivation, I can't go in. I can go back now. Lu Ming was satisfied. Then, he went through the cave and returned to the Hurricane Passage. Then, he followed the original path and climbed up the rocks to return. Going back was against the wind, so it was extremely difficult. However, Lu Ming had already killed all of the lion-headed eagle beasts in this Hurricane Passage. When he returned, there were no lion-headed eagle beasts blocking his way. Moreover, Lu Ming's cultivation had increased by another level, so his speed was still very fast. Even though they were traveling against the wind, their speed was still much faster than when they had arrived. After Lu Ming had crawled back for some time, the people from the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect finally opened the array formation of the passageway. They hurried through the passageway. At the end of this passage was the place where Lu Ming had obtained a large number of divine artifacts. After that, the hall master of the Yuan Luo Hall, Situ Haonan, and the others discovered that this place was still empty. Other than some stone stools and tables, there was nothing else. What happened? Yuan Luo Hall master roared. He could no longer control his temper. After a lot of hard work, he found that there was nothing here. If he knew that Lu Ming had already reached this place, he would probably vomit blood from anger. Everyone's expression was extremely ugly. Then, when they discovered the Hurricane Passage, their expressions became even uglier. The Hurricane Passage here was already the convergence of several passages. Its power was astonishing. Even the hall master of the Yuan Luo Hall was wary of it. This should be a blockade set up by the cave master. Could it be that the true inner cave is in the depths of these hurricane passages? They guessed. However, for a moment, they were hesitant. Usually, such a place would be accompanied by danger. Let's observe for a few days before making a decision. Yuan Luo Hall master said. In the sky above the headquarters of the Zhengtian army, the ancestor of techniques and Fu Heng had been playing chess for more than 2 years. And now, it was already the final moment. Break. The ancestor of techniques waved his hand and a giant chess piece was formed and placed on the chessboard. Fu Heng's expression changed. With a wave of his hand, a powerful force surged towards the ancestor of techniques, preventing him from placing the chess piece. Boom! Boom! The two of them continued to exchange blows. In the past 2 years, the two of them had exchanged blows countless times. After a dozen moves. Boom! In the end, the ancestor of technique's chess piece still landed on the chessboard. You've lost. The ancestor of techniques looked at Fu Heng. Brother Fa is indeed amazing. This old man is impressed. The game is over, and this old man has fulfilled his promise. Brother Fa, please don't blame me. Let's go. With a wave of his sleeve, Fu Heng soared into the sky and a starship appeared. He boarded the starship and left the Jingtian planet. Northern Shang planet. As soon as Fu Heng left, the ancestor of techniques immediately went to the northern Shang planet. After arriving at the Seven Stars Island, he immediately rushed to the Qin gold mine and met up with the Jingtian army 100,000 miles away from the Qin gold island. The army lord is here. Army lord. The Jingtian army immediately bowed to the ancestor of techniques. What's the situation in the Yuan Luo Hall these past 2 years? The ancestor of techniques asked. Army lord, the Yuan Luo Hall master and the walkabout sect master have been in the cave abodes of the experts for the past 2 years. Someone reported. That old fox Situ Haonan is also here. A sharp light flashed through the ancestor of technique's eyes as he ordered, wait for me here. I'll go check it out myself. Then, the ancestor of techniques turned into a ray of light and shot towards Qin Jinquang. It's the Jingtian army's army lord Fa Ming. Inform the hall masters. As soon as the ancestor of techniques arrived, the Yuan Luo Hall and the walkabout sect immediately noticed him. Under the lead of a few true God realm experts, they became cautious and sent a message to the Yuan Luo Hall master. The Yuan Luo Hall master and Situ Haonan received the message at the same time. Fa Ming dares to come alone? Fine, we'll make him stay today. A cold light flashed through the Yuan Luo Hall master's eyes. After spending a few years and not getting anything, he was filled with anger. Fine. After we get rid of Fa Ming, we'll split the Jingtian army's territory. Situ Haonan said coldly. Old Mo, hide in the dark. Fa Ming might think that you're still guarding the headquarters. Later, Brother Situ and I will fight with Fa Ming. Then, you sneak attack Fa Ming. The Yuan Luo Hall master ordered. The Yuan Luo Hall master was wary of the ancestor of techniques. He and Mo Kan were both at the 4th level True God realm, while the ancestor of techniques was only at the 3rd level True God realm. However, the ancestor of techniques was extremely strong. He could fight against the two of them alone. Even with Situ Haonan, they weren't confident that they could make the ancestor of techniques stay in a direct battle. If the ancestor of techniques wanted to leave, they couldn't stop him. Only a sneak attack could make the ancestor of techniques stay. Don't worry. The Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect is also hiding near Qin Jinquang's vein. He can also sneak attack when the time comes. Today, we must make Fa Ming stay. Situ Haonan said coldly. The Yuan Luo Hall master's heart trembled as he secretly called Situ Haonan an old fox. Situ Haonan had asked the Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect to hide in the dark. It was most likely to guard against the Yuan Luo Hall. Fine. Today, we'll make sure that Fa Ming doesn't return. The Yuan Luo Hall master said coldly. The group of people headed outside. Chapter 26:18. Outside the cave, the ancestor of technique stood in the air, his body emitting a vast divine aura. Set up the formation. The experts of Yuan Luo and the free and unfettered sect guarding the cave all had solemn expressions as they retreated and set up a great formation. The ancestor of technique was too famous. A person who had walked out of a lesser thousand world under the jurisdiction of Yuan Luo Palace had broken free from Yuan Luo's shackles and risen to power, establishing the righteous army to fight against Yuan Luo Palace. Most importantly, the ancestor of technique's strength was incomparably powerful. He had fought against 2 experts of Yuan Luo Palace alone and established a great reputation for himself. Although there was a level 3 true god from Yuan Luo Palace present who had the same cultivation as the ancestor of technique, his face was pale and his heart trembled when facing the ancestor of technique. He had once seen the ancestor of technique kill a level 3 true god expert with one move. He didn't have the slightest bit of courage when facing the ancestor of technique. Kang Ji, get out here. The ancestor of technique shouted coldly, his voice rumbling and causing many people with weaker cultivation to retreat. Fa Ming, do you only know how to be arrogant in front of my subordinates? The voice of Yuan Luo Palace Master, Kang Ji, came from within the cave. Following which, more than 10 silhouettes rushed out of the cavern. It was Kang Ji, Situ Haonan, and the others. Of course, the Supreme Elder of Yuan Luo Palace, Missouri Kan, didn't appear. Kang Ji's gaze swept across and found that only Fa Ming was present. The coldness in his eyes intensified. Kang Ji, Chen Jindao originally belonged to the righteous army. Now, you can scram. The ancestor of technique said. Ha ha ha, what a joke, what a joke. Kang Ji laughed and looked mockingly at the ancestor of technique. Fa Ming, you're really naive. You've been in the chaotic Star River for so many years, haven't you understood one thing? In the chaotic Star River, whoever is stronger will be able to occupy more territory. From today onwards, this island, no, the entire northern Shang planet will belong to Yuan Luo Palace and the free and unfettered sect. Do you understand? If that's the case, then let's talk with strength. The ancestor of technique was very direct. He stepped forward and a vast divine power erupted like a tide. Boom! The ancestor of techniques pressed down with his palm. Divine power boiled as a gigantic palm print slammed down on Kang Ji. Kang Ji didn't dare to be careless. His LV4 True God Realm divine power exploded. A saber appeared in his hand. A saber light shot up into the sky and slashed at the ancestor of technique's palm print. Boom! Energy surged into the sky as divine powers collided, creating shockwaves that spread out in all directions. Not good, block it. The True God Realm experts of the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect set up defenses in front of them to block the shockwaves, but they were still pushed back by the shockwaves. Those with weaker cultivations directly coughed up blood, their faces pale. If there were true divinity powerhouses defending them, those with weaker cultivations would most likely be killed by the shockwaves. There was a huge gap between empty God Realm and True God Realm. At the same time, the saber light and palm print dissipated, and a figure retreated continuously. The person who retreated was Kang Ji. His cultivation was clearly at the 4th level True God Realm, one level higher than the ancestor of techniques. But in a head-on battle, he was at a disadvantage. Kang Ji, your battle strength is not enough. The ancestor of technique spoke coldly. He manipulated his divine power and slammed down again. Scorching Sun Saber Technique. Kang Ji shouted. His 4th level middle divine artifact saber radiated a dazzling saber light that was as dazzling as the sun. Then, he slashed out with his saber and the blazing saber light slashed at the ancestor of technique's palm print. Kang Ji had used a divine skill. Fa Ming, take this. The sect leader of the Walkabout sect, Situ Haonan, also attacked. His body moved like a flickering shadow as he charged at the ancestor of technique. At the same time, a soft sword appeared in his hand. The sword light was like a poisonous snake as it stabbed at the ancestor of technique's vitals. At the same time, this was also a terrifying divine skill. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan had both used their divine skills. The ancestor of technique's face finally turned serious. A 2-meter-long battle sword appeared in his hand. Swoosh! The ancestor of technique slashed out with his sword and the sword light exploded. Boom! Boom! There were 2 loud explosions as the ancestor of technique blocked Kang Ji and Situ Haonan's attacks. Fa Ming, since you dared to come here alone today, you shall stay here forever. Kang Ji continued to channel his divine power and unleashed his divine skill to the maximum. Its power was extremely terrifying as he attacked head-on. At the same time, Situ Haonan's body flickered as he moved around at an extremely fast speed. He took the opportunity to attack the ancestor of technique's vitals. The two of them worked together and their power increased exponentially. The ancestor of technique focused his attention and fought 1 against 2. It was difficult to tell who would win. The three of them fought on the surface of the sea, stirring up huge waves. Then, they fought in the air. In the blink of an eye, the three of them had exchanged more than 100 blows and it was difficult to tell who would win. Then, the three of them fought on the surface of the sea. Whoosh! Suddenly, the surface of the sea rolled and a terrifying light of destruction burst out from the surface of the sea and attacked the ancestor of technique. Mo Can. The ancestor of technique shouted angrily. Ha, Fa Ming, die. Kang Ji laughed loudly and launched a violent attack. Situ Haonan also attacked with all his might and cooperated with Mo Can's sneak attack. Just as the ancestor of technique was about to be hit, the sword light on his body suddenly exploded. Rays of sword light burst out and filled the sky. Boom! 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 Kang Ji, Situ Haonan, and Mo Can's attacks were all blocked by the sword light that filled the sky. Swoosh! Swoosh! Kang Ji, Situ Haonan, and Mo Can quickly retreated. They stood in the air and looked at the ancestor of technique in shock. Fa Ming, you've cultivated your divine skill to the 3rd level? Kang Ji roared in shock. A divine skill was an offensive skill of the martial god realm. It could unleash the power of one's divine force to the extreme and burst out with terrifying power. It was the same as a martial skill. According to the difference in power and degree of mystery, divine skills were divided into different grades. However, the division of divine skills was related to the degree of mystery. For example, if a divine skill only had 1 level, even if it was cultivated to the peak, it would only have 1 level. That would be the 1st level of the divine skill. Some divine skills, when cultivated to the peak, had 2 levels, that would be the 2nd level of the divine skill. 2 levels of the divine skill would naturally be stronger and more terrifying than a single level of the divine skill. Some divine skills, when cultivated to the peak, had 3 levels, that would be the 3rd level of the divine skill. The more levels a divine skill had, the greater its potential and the higher its value. Of course, the cultivation of a divine skill was very profound and complicated. Even if you had it, you might not be able to cultivate it to the highest level. For example, if a person's talent was limited and he had 3 levels of the divine skill, but he could only cultivate it to the 1st level, then its power would be no different from a single level of the divine skill. The more profound it was, the more levels it had. There were 4 levels, 5 levels, 6 levels, and even 9 levels and 10 levels. If one wanted to cultivate a divine skill, the minimum requirement was to reach the peak of the empty god realm. This was because using a divine skill would consume a lot of divine force. Without a strong divine force, one would not be able to support it. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan both had 3 levels of the divine skill, but they had only cultivated it to the 2nd level. The ancestor of technique also had 3 levels of the divine skill, but he had already cultivated it to the 3rd level. Chapter 26:19. One had to know that the ancestor of technique was only a level 3 true god, but he had already cultivated a divine skill to the 3rd level. This level of comprehension was simply terrifying. I must kill him. Kang Ji roared in his heart. The ancestor of technique was already so terrifying. If he broke through to the level 4 true god realm, it would be even more terrifying. So what if you've cultivated a divine skill to the 3rd level? You're still going to die today. Kang Ji roared and charged towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, Situ Haonan and Mo can also charged towards the ancestor of technique. Each of them unleashed the full power of their divine skills. Sword-breaking technique. The ancestor of technique's battle sword stabbed out continuously. More than a dozen sword lights pierced towards Kong Ji, Situ Haonan, and Mo Kansas. This was the ancestor of technique's divine skill. It had already been cultivated to the 3rd level and was extremely powerful. It constantly clashed with Kong Ji and the others' attacks. In the air, the ancestor of technique's figure retreated rapidly. However, he still managed to block Kong Ji and the others' attacks. He was only at a slight disadvantage. Kill, kill. Kong Ji was extremely shocked. With the strength of the 3 of them, they were actually unable to take down the ancestor of techniques. Didn't that mean that without Situ Haonan, he and Mo Ken were no match for the ancestor of techniques? He must kill the ancestor of technique or he wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Situ Haonan also had the same thought. The walkabout sect's strength was similar to the Yuan Luo palaces. The 3 of them charged towards the ancestor of technique again. The 2 sides were locked in a fierce battle. Force him closer to the island. In the midst of the battle, Situ Haonan sent a message to Kong Ji in Mo Kansas. Kong Ji's eyes flashed with a trace of ferocity. Violent attacks continuously blasted out, gradually forcing the ancestor of technique towards Qinjin Island. On Qinjin Island, the people of Yuan Luo Palace and the walkabout sect had all retreated far away. They didn't dare to stay there. Slowly, their battlefield moved to Qinjin Island. Whoosh! Suddenly, a sword light burst out from a secret place on Qinjin Island. The sword light was bright and sharp. Its power was extremely terrifying and not any weaker than Situ Haonan's. The ancestor of technique revealed a shocked expression. He knew that he had been ambushed. There was even an expert on the other side. Needless to say, he knew this was a 4th stage True God Realm Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect. The ancestor of technique tried his best to dodge, but Kong Ji and the other 2 launched a fierce attack, making it difficult for the ancestor of technique to dodge. Puff! In the end, the ancestor of technique didn't manage to dodge it completely. A streak of sword light slashed across his chest, almost cutting him in half. Scram! The ancestor of techniques roared furiously. At that instant, over 100 sword glows were fired, forcing Kong Ji and the others to back away. With a flash, Kong Ji and the other 3 surrounded the ancestor of techniques. Very good. I didn't expect that the strongest of both of your forces would be here. The ancestor of technique's face was somewhat pale. Although he managed to avoid being hit in his vitals, he still suffered some injuries and his strength weakened a little. Fa Ming, your fate is sealed today. You're just an ant from a minor kiliacosm. It's impossible for you to defy the heavens. Kong Ji said coldly. Haha, so what if it's a minor 1000 world? Could it be that you are noble just because you were born in the primordial world? How laughable. If it's a one-on-one battle, all of you are nothing but clay chickens and pottery dogs. The ancestor of technique coldly snickered and his face was full of disdain. The faces of Kong Ji and the other 3 darkened. Indeed, if it was a one-on-one battle, none of them would be a match for the ancestor of techniques. Even though their cultivations were much higher than theirs. You only know how to talk. The winner takes all. Fa Ming, I'll send you on your way. Kong Ji didn't waste any more words and charged towards the ancestor of techniques. At the same time, Situ Haonan and the other 2 also launched their attacks. Before, the ancestor of techniques was slightly weaker than the 3 of them. Now that he was injured, he was even weaker against the 4 of them. As soon as they started to exchange blows, he was at a disadvantage. The righteous Sky Army Lord is finished. In the future, the righteous Sky Army's territory will belong to our two forces. Not far away, the people of the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect thought excitedly. Boom! Boom! The ancestor of techniques and the other four clashed fiercely. The ancestor of techniques was at a disadvantage and could only block with all his strength. Bam! After a few dozen exchanges, the ancestor of techniques' body was sent flying and heavily smashed into the Chen Gold Island. Boom! Dust filled the air and the Chen Gold ores flew everywhere. A giant hole appeared on the island. At this moment, Lu Ming had already passed through the hurricane tunnel and returned to the Chen Gold mine. He followed the tunnel that Xiao had dug out and headed out of the Chen Gold Island. Boom! 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 He had only walked halfway when a violent explosion came from above. Then, he felt the entire island shake. Then, a terrifying force rushed towards him along the vein above. Not good. Lu Ming retreated quickly. The Chen gold mine in this area kept exploding and Lu Ming was sent flying by the force. The ancestor of techniques lay in the deep hole on the island and spat out blood. This attack had worsened his injuries. Whoosh! The ancestor of techniques barely stabilized his injuries and charged out of the deep hole. Kong Ji and the other three's auras locked onto the ancestor of techniques and trapped him in the middle. Suddenly, Kong Ji and the others were stunned because they felt the aura of life in a pile of rocks. Bam! Then, the pile of rocks exploded and a figure charged out. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. Xiao, what's going on? Lu Ming was speechless. He had also encountered an unexpected disaster after passing through the Chen gold mine. When he glanced at Kong Ji and the others, his heart skipped a beat. Kong Ji and the others' auras were too terrifying. To Lu Ming, they were unfathomable. Lu Ming, why are you here? At this moment, the ancestor of techniques also saw Lu Ming and was shocked. He flashed and appeared beside Lu Ming. Ancestor of techniques. Seeing the ancestor of techniques, Lu Ming was overjoyed. So it's an ant from the Zhengtian army. Fa Ming, it's your fortune to have a brat die with you. Kong Ji said coldly as the ferocity in his eyes grew stronger. Kong Ji, master of the Yuan Luo Palace, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as thoughts flashed through his mind. He roughly knew what had happened. The ancestor of techniques was surrounded. Don't worry, Fa Ming. After you die, I'll send the people of the Zhengtian army down to accompany you. Situ Haonan also said coldly. The four of them gradually approached the ancestor of techniques and prepared to launch a thunderous attack to kill the ancestor of techniques. Senior, this battle sword is for you. At this moment, Lu Ming took out a battle sword and handed it to the ancestor of techniques. This combat sword was one of the two middle-grade 7th-level divine weapons that Lu Ming had obtained from the cave abode. Seeing this battle sword, the ancestor of techniques immediately widened his eyes in shock. However, without hesitation, he took it and spat a mouthful of blood onto the battle sword. He didn't have time to refine it now, but by using his blood as a sacrifice, he could temporarily unleash the power of the battle sword and control it freely. Buzz! The battle sword vibrated and a sword chi shot into the sky. Chapter 2620. That's a medial level 7 sacred artifact. Kong Ji, Situ Haonan, Mo Kan, and the others widened their eyes in shock. At the same time, there was deep greed in their eyes. Kill! The ancestor of technique roared and displayed the sword-breaking technique. Sword light shone brightly and pillars of sword light shot towards Kong Ji and the others. Attack! Kong Ji and the others attacked as well. Four terrifying attacks attacked the ancestor of technique. Boom! Boom! There was a violent explosion and the ancestor of technique took a few steps back. However, Kang Ji and the others' attacks were all blocked by the ancestor of technique. He was only at a slight disadvantage. It's really a medial level 7 sacred artifact. Damn it, how did that kid get a medial level 7 sacred artifact? This kid must have had a fortuitous encounter. Kang Ji, Situ Haonan, and the others roared. However, they did not suspect that Lu Ming had obtained the sacred artifact from the cave dwelling. That was because the cave dwelling's door was too difficult to break open. There were so many of them and they needed to spend a lot of time to break it open. How could a mere Lu Ming break it open? Moreover, they had searched the cave dwelling and there were no other entrances. They only thought that Lu Ming had obtained the sacred artifact from somewhere else. Lu Ming, follow me closely. The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming nodded and followed closely behind the ancestor of technique. Let's see who can stop me. The ancestor of technique's long hair fluttered in the wind. His sword chi was wild as he charged towards Kang Ji's direction. Stop him. Kang Ji roared and charged towards the ancestor of technique. Situ Haonan and the others also attacked. However, the ancestor of technique controlled the medial level 7 sacred artifact and his combat strength increased tremendously. He was no longer afraid of Kang Ji and the others. Both sides continued to attack and exchanged dozens of blows in an instant. However, the ancestor of technique was only at a slight disadvantage. Bam! In the end, the ancestor of technique forced Kang Ji to retreat and brought Lu Ming out of the encirclement. I won't keep you company today. If you want to fight, we'll fight another day. The ancestor of technique brought Lu Ming and flew into the distance. His voice came from afar. Damn it! Damn it! Kang Ji roared furiously, his face full of malevolence. Today was such a good opportunity, yet the ancestor of techniques ran away. Plus, the ancestor of technique had acquired a 7th level mid-quality weapon. His battling abilities had greatly increased. This was extremely disadvantageous for them. What should we do? Situ Haonan's face turned ugly. They didn't give chase. They knew that even if they caught up, they wouldn't be able to kill the ancestor of techniques. If the ancestor of techniques fought with his life on the line, even if they managed to kill him, at least 2 of them would die. None of them wanted to die. Alliance. We must form an alliance. A true alliance. Otherwise, the ancestor of techniques will destroy us one by one. Kang Ji gritted his teeth. All right. Situ Haonan immediately nodded. Right now, none of them were a match for the ancestor of techniques. They had to join hands and support each other. Only then would they be able to fight against the ancestor of techniques. Also, we have to break into this cave as soon as possible. Once we get the treasures inside, we won't have to fear the ancestor of techniques anymore. Kang Ji said. That's right. Attack now. Situ Haonan said. With that, they immediately returned to the cave abode. They planned to take the risk and try to enter the hurricane passage. The ancestor of techniques brought Lu Ming and flew tens of thousands of miles away in the blink of an eye before stopping. Poof! The ancestor of technique spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned paler. Senior, are you all right? Lu Ming was a little worried. I'm fine. I just need to rest for a while. Kang Ji and the others shouldn't dare to chase after us. Let's rest again. Saying that, the ancestor of techniques took out a healing elixir and swallowed it. He began to heal his injuries. The ancestor of techniques' injuries weren't too serious. Not long after, his complexion improved a lot. Lu Ming, it's all thanks to you this time. Here, I'll return this divine weapon to you. The ancestor of techniques smiled and took out the 7th level mid-quality divine weapon and handed it to Lu Ming. Senior, you can keep this divine artifact for now. Lu Ming smiled and didn't take it. How can I do that? A 7th level mid-quality divine weapon is too precious. How can I accept it? The ancestor of techniques shook his head. Even he, Kong Ji, Situ Haonan, and the others didn't have a 7th level mid-quality divine weapon. The ones they used before were all 4th level mid-quality divine weapons. Senior, just take it that I'm lending it to you. I can't use this divine weapon even if I keep it. Only you can fight against Kong Ji and the others with it. Lu Ming said. Now that the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect had joined forces, the righteous army was alone and without reinforcements. If the ancestor of techniques didn't have a 7th level mid-quality divine weapon, he probably wouldn't be their match. Only with this divine weapon could he fight against them and make them fear him. Alright, then I'll keep it for now. I'll return it to you when your cultivation increases. The ancestor of techniques pondered for a moment and didn't refuse. He also understood that Lu Ming was right. If he didn't have a 7th level mid-quality divine weapon, he really wouldn't be their match if Kong Ji and Situ Haonan joined forces. Putting away his battle sword, the ancestor of techniques brought Lu Ming to meet up with the rest of the righteous army. Ancestor of techniques, how's the situation? Should we kill our way over? We can't let the Yuan Luo Hall take over that expert's cave dwelling. The members of the righteous army said one by one. It's fine. How can the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect take over this expert's cave dwelling? Let's return to the righteous army first and spread the news that there's an expert's cave dwelling here. The ancestor of technique said. General is wise. Since we can't have it, they can't have it for themselves either. Ha ha ha. The righteous army laughed. Then, they returned to 7 Stars Island and returned to the righteous army through the island's transportation formation. Then, they began to spread the news. Soon, the news of a heavenly god's cave dwelling on the northern Shang planet spread like a hurricane through the chaotic astral river and into the ears of various factions. What? A heavenly god's cave dwelling? A heavenly god's cave dwelling is extremely rare in the chaotic astral river. We can't miss it. Looks like I'll have to make a trip there myself. In the chaotic Star River, all the big and small forces were alarmed. Various experts hurried to the northern Shang planet. A heavenly god was a supreme existence in the chaotic astral river. Their divine might shook the boundless starry sky. Currently, only the Cloud Peak Pavilion had a heavenly god overseeing it in the chaotic astral river. A heavenly god's cave dwelling was too attractive to the true immortal experts of various factions. Not long after, experts arrived at the Chen Jinghuang vein on the northern Shang planet. They were all true immortals, and most of them were at the 4th level of the true immortal realm or above. Damn it, damn that Fa Ming, damn the righteous army. Kong Ji roared furiously. He was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. With so many experts descending, how could they have a share? They could only follow the crowd. Even if there were treasures inside, they might not even be able to drink the soup. Any random faction here wouldn't be weaker than the Yuan Luo Hall. Kong Ji really wanted to vomit blood. After discovering this heavenly god's cave dwelling, he hadn't gotten a single thing. Chapter 26-21. One by one, experts began to barge into the cave. However, the wind tunnel at the back was extremely dangerous. Some people barged in and found that the deeper they went, the more wind tunnels there were. Wind tunnels crisscrossed, and the further they went, the stronger the wind tunnels became. Even high-level true God realm experts couldn't barge in. Later, the Cloud Peak Pavilion's pavilion master personally took action. This was a heavenly God realm expert. He barged into the depths of the cave and reportedly obtained some treasures. As for what he obtained, no one knew. After the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master barged into the depths of the cave and took away the treasures, this matter came to an end. In the end, the Yuan Luo Palace and Walkabout sect didn't obtain anything. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan were infuriated, wishing they could kill the ancestor of technique and annihilate the righteous army. But in the end, they didn't dare to act rashly. They were actively looking for allies, hoping to find more allies to annihilate the righteous army. Of course, the ancestor of technique wasn't idle either. He was also looking for allies to resist the Yuan Luo Palace and Walkabout sect. Regarding this, Lu Ming couldn't help much. He could only focus on cultivating. In the Heavenly God's Cave's wind tunnel, Lu Ming's cultivation rose by 2 levels, reaching 7-star Heavenly Emperor realm. Next, he only needed to strengthen his foundation and advance towards the 10,000 origin unification realm. At the same time, after fighting with the lion-headed eagle beast for 2 years, Lu Ming's comprehension of the battle character formula had reached a peak. Now, he could double his battle strength at any time. 100% success rate. However, the battle character in his sea of consciousness was unfathomable and mysterious. Lu Ming understood that he was far from comprehending it. Right now, he had only scratched the surface. If he continued to comprehend it, Lu Ming felt that he could triple his battle strength. However, it wasn't that easy to triple his battle strength. Lu Ming had reached a bottleneck and needed time to comprehend it. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. After 3 years of cultivation, although Lu Ming had yet to step into the demigod realm, he felt that he was getting closer and closer to the demigod realm. On this day, a piece of news spread through the chaotic astral river, causing a huge commotion. All the factions, big and small, went crazy. On this day, Lu Ming was cultivating when he received a message from the ancestor of techniques. The ancestor of techniques had something important to discuss with him. Is there something important? Lu Ming felt quite confused and went to a large hall in the righteous army. He found that there were already 5 or 6 people waiting here. 5 or 6 of them were not very old. They should not have cultivated for more than 10,000 years. They were all part of the younger generation. Tong Shi-er was among them. Lu Ming. Tong Shi-er greeted Lu Ming with a smile. The others also nodded at Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded in response, and then he gazed at Tong Shi-er and said, "Miss Shi-er, may I know why the general has summoned us?" "I don't know either." Tong Shi-er shook her head. The others also had puzzled looks on their faces. "You are all here." At this moment, the ancestor of techniques walked in from outside the palace. "General." Everyone bowed. "No need to be so polite." The ancestor of techniques waved his hand and said, "You must be very curious why I called you here in such a hurry, right?" Lu Ming and the others nodded. "You should know that our chaotic galaxy belongs to the Qin Tian starfield, right?" The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming and the others nodded again. At the same time, they felt a little strange. Could this matter be related to the Qin Tian starfield? The chaotic galaxy had hundreds of large and small factions, countless planets, and incomparably vast territories. However, compared to the Qin Tian starfield, it could not be compared. The Qin heavenly star field contained many galaxies. There were at least a few hundred of them. The chaotic galaxy was only one of the many galaxies in the Qin Tian starfield. Moreover, it was the worst and most backward galaxy. The number of experts was also the least. What did the ancestor of techniques summon them here have to do with the Qin Tian starfield? The Qin Tian starfield's territory is too vast. There are hundreds of galaxies, and there are many races living there. There are countless experts. However, among the countless factions, other than a few terrifying races, the strongest faction is the 13 sects. The 13 sects of the Qin Tian starfield. Tong Shi, and a few other youths exclaimed in unison. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He had read about it in the ancient records. The 13 sects of the Qin Tian starfield were 13 extremely powerful, ancient, and terrifying sections. It could be said that in the vast Qin Tian starfield, other than a few terrifying races, the 13 sects stood at the peak. These 13 sects were divided into 3 overlords and the top 10 sections. Without a doubt, the 3 overlords were the strongest, followed by the top 10 sections. These 13 sects occupied half of the Qin Tian starfield's territory and countless planets. They had dominated the Qin Tian starfield for countless years. Factions like the Zhengtian army, Yuan Luo Palace, and the Walkabout sect were ants in front of the 13 sects. Even the strongest faction in the chaotic galaxy, the Yunfeng Pavilion, was no different from an ant in front of the 13 sects. To the people of the chaotic galaxy, the 13 sects were just a legend. They had only read about them in the ancient records. That's right. Every 1,000 years, the 13 sects of the Qin Heavenly Star Field will recruit a batch of disciples from all over the Qin Heavenly Star Field. Now, 1,000 years have passed. The ancestor of technique said. He paused here. The 13 sects of Qin Tian are recruiting disciples. Tong Shi, and the others' breathing became heavy, but they were also puzzled. General, I've read the records. The 13 sects of Qin Tian will recruit a batch of disciples every 1,000 years, but they have never recruited disciples from the chaotic galaxy. What does this have to do with us? Tong Shi, asked. The chaotic galaxy was the most backward and desolate of the many galaxies in the Qin Tian starfield. It was the weakest galaxy. Every race, every force, those who couldn't survive, or those who committed crimes, all ran to the chaotic star river. Therefore, the chaotic galaxy was a chaotic place where good and bad people mixed together. It had always been looked down upon by other galaxies. The 13 sects of the Qin Tian starfield had never recruited disciples from the chaotic galaxy. Therefore, Tong Shi, and the others were puzzled. It's different this time. The 13 sects of Qin Tian announced to the world that they will be recruiting disciples from the entire Qin Tian starfield soon, including the chaotic galaxy. The ancestor of technique said. That's right. The chaotic galaxy will be recruiting disciples. Tong Shi, and the other youths breathed heavily, their eyes burning with passion. They were all excited. The Qin Heavenly 13 sects had actually opened their doors to the chaotic star river for the first time. If one could join any of the Qin Heavenly 13 sects, it would be a heaven-defying opportunity. In the future, one's cultivation would definitely soar to the skies, becoming a person above all others. The heavenly god realm was the synonym of invincibility in the chaotic galaxy. However, in the 13 sects of Qin Tian, heavenly gods weren't anything special. There were many divine king realm existences in the 13 sects of Qin Tian. Chapter 26-22. Such a powerful force naturally had an unimaginable amount of resources. Their cultivation conditions and environment were simply incomparable to the chaotic star river. Moreover, if they were chosen by a heavenly god or even a divine king, they would have a bright future ahead of them. Therefore, this time, I've summoned all of you to participate in the Qin Tian 13 sects disciple recruitment. However, it's not that easy to join the Qin Tian 13 sects. You'll have to go through layers and layers of screening. It's extremely difficult. The ancestor of technique said. His eyes were filled with anticipation. As long as someone from the righteous army joined the Qin Tian 13 sects and became a disciple of the Qin Tian 13 sects, the righteous army's status in the chaotic astral river would soar. At that time, who knew how many powers would try to curry favor with them? At that time, it would be easy to destroy the Yuan Luo Palace and the Freedom Sect. We'll do our best to join the Qin Tian 13 sects. Tong Shi, and the others said loudly with determination in their eyes. They understood that this was a great opportunity for them. They had to make good use of it. All right, go back and prepare. We'll meet here 10 days later. I'll bring all of you to Yunfeng City. The first round of screening will be held there. Oh right, Lu Ming, you stay here first. The ancestor of techniques looked at Lu Ming after he finished speaking. Tong Shi, and the others left while Lu Ming stayed behind. Lu Ming was puzzled. Why did the ancestor of techniques ask him to stay? Lu Ming, the Qin Tian 13 sects only look at talent and not cultivation base when recruiting disciples. Therefore, with your talent, you'll definitely be chosen by the Qin Tian 13 sects. The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming had mastered the sovereign Tao. With such talent, he would definitely be chosen. Lu Ming, which sect do you want to join? The ancestor of techniques asked. I haven't decided yet. I don't know much about the Qin Tian 13 sects. We'll see later. Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, I have a request. The ancestor of techniques pondered for a moment and suddenly sighed. Senior, please speak your mind. Lu Ming said. I would like to invite you to join a sect. After the ancestor of techniques finished speaking, he paused for a moment before continuing. Among the Qin 13 sects, the strongest are the three overlords, the Mystic Academy, the Invincible Kenzo, and the Immeasurable Sacred Ground. However, the sect I want you to join is not one of the three overlords, but one of the top 10 sects, the Kongxian School. Kongxian School? Lu Ming was somewhat puzzled. You must be very puzzled as to why I let you join the three overlord forces. Sigh, I have some selfish motives here. Back then, I had some interactions with Kongxian School. Speaking up to this point, the ancestor of techniques recounted what had happened between him and the Kongxian School. It turned out that after the ancestor of techniques had escaped from the Yuan Luo Palace, he had been traveling and tempering himself in the vast universe. He had once left the chaotic galaxy and headed to other galaxies. During this process, he met a woman and fell in love with her. However, this woman was a genius of the Kongxian School. Her father was also an important figure in the Kongxian School. Her status was much higher than that of the ancestor of techniques. Naturally, the woman's father was strongly against the two of them being together. He even forcefully brought the woman back to the Kongxian School. He had once said that as long as the ancestor of techniques could not break through to the heavenly god realm, he would not allow the two of them to meet. Sigh, with my talent, I'm afraid that it will be difficult for me to reach the heavenly god realm in this lifetime. Therefore, I have some selfish motives. I want you to join the Kongxian School. Speaking up to this point, the ancestor of techniques took out an exquisite dagger and said, if you join the Kongxian School, if you have the chance, return this dagger to her. Oh right, her name is Yuexin. Return it to her and tell her that I have let her down. However, this is my selfishness. If you don't want to join the Kongxian School, I won't force you, the ancestor of techniques sighed. His eyes were filled with nostalgia and helplessness. Senior, I agree. Lu Ming smiled and took the dagger from the ancestor of techniques' hand. The ancestor of techniques incident reminded him of the incident between him and Xian Yanqing. In the divine wilderness continent, he and Xian Yanqing had gone through many trials and tribulations before they were together. It was somewhat similar to the ancestor of techniques incident. Moreover, Lu Ming did not really care about which sect he joined. He had Jing Yu's inheritance, but he still had not broken the seal on Jing Yu's portrait. Once the seal was broken, Lu Ming believed that he would definitely gain something. Moreover, he still had the battle formula to learn. The main reason he joined a sect was to obtain resources. All sorts of resources that would help his cultivation. Moreover, there was another reason. Although the Kongxian school was one of the top 10 sects, it was ranked first among the top 10 sects. In this aspect, it was not much weaker than the three overlords. Lu Ming, thank you. The ancestor of techniques cupped his fists solemnly. Senior, you're too kind. Lu Ming quickly helped the ancestor of techniques up and said, Senior, I have some friends. Can they join the Qin Tian 13 sects recruitment? He thought of Xie Nianqing, Xie Nianjuan, and Dandan. Of course. Those who have not cultivated for 10,000 years can join. I remember that your wife is extremely talented. Originally, I wanted to ask you to bring her along. However, if you want to join the selection, you have to be at least level 1 Empty God Realm. However, your combat strength is extremely powerful and you don't have to meet this condition. The ancestor of technique said. Do I need to be at level 1 Empty God Realm? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Originally, he wanted to ask Bubbles, his disciples, Xiang Xiang, Ouyang Moli, and the others. However, it seemed that only Xie Nianqing, Xie Nianjuan, and Dandan met the conditions. Immediately, Lu Ming bid farewell to the ancestor of techniques and returned to his residence. After returning to his residence, Lu Ming looked for Xie Nianqing, Xie Nianjuan, and Dandan and told them about the Qin Tian 13 sects recruitment. Dandan immediately raised both his hands in agreement. Xie Nianqing naturally wanted to go wherever Lu Ming went. I agree. Xie Nianjuan did not hesitate and agreed immediately. To Xie Nianjuan, she did not care about the God realm or the Supreme Being. She also did not care about the divine skill or the divine skill. What she cared about was the cultivation resources and the excellent cultivation environment of the powerful forces. That would allow her strength to increase tremendously. During this period of time, all the forces in the chaotic galaxy were excited. They gathered all the young experts who met the conditions to join the Qin Tian 13 sects recruitment. In a hall in the Yuan Luo Palace, 8 young men were lined up in a row. Kong Long was among them. At the front was the Yuan Luo Palace Master, Kong Ji. This time, all of you must do your best. At least, one of you must join the Qin Tian 13 sects. Even if it is the weakest sect among the 13 sects, the Yuan Luo Palace's prestige in the chaotic galaxy will increase greatly. At that time, we will not be afraid of the Yunfeng Pavilion. Do you understand? Kong Ji said loudly. Yes, we will do our best. Kong Long and the others said loudly. Chapter 26-23. The Walkabout sect master, Situ Haonan, had also gathered all the young geniuses who met the requirements. At least one of you has to join the Qin Tian 13 sects. Situ Haonan said loudly as he looked at the 9 young men and women. In the end, his gaze landed on a young man with a cold expression. This young man was his son, Situ Zhao's elder brother, Situ Feng. Situ Haonan's eyes were filled with hope as he looked at Situ Feng. Situ Feng was a martial arts fanatic who was obsessed with cultivation and had no interest in anything else. However, he knew that Situ Feng's comprehension ability was extremely shocking. With his shocking comprehension ability, it was very likely that he would be chosen by the Qin Tian 13 sects and be accepted as a disciple. That was his hope. Once Situ Feng joined the Qin Tian 13 sects, the righteous army would be destroyed with a flip of his hand. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. The geniuses of various factions began to gather at Cloud Peak City. Lu Ming, Xie Nianqing, Xie Nianjuan, and Dandan also met up with the ancestor of techniques, Tong Shi, and the others. It was worth mentioning that Bubbles, Lu Ming's disciple, Xiang Xiang, and Ouyang Moli also wanted to go and take a look. They said that they wanted to see Lu Ming's glory. Lu Ming also brought them along. After stepping into the transportation array, they arrived at Cloud Peak City a few days later. This was Lu Ming's second time in Cloud Peak City. Cloud Peak City was as lively as usual. On the streets, people came and went, and there were many shops. After arriving at Cloud Peak City, the ancestor of techniques brought them to the Cloud Peak Pavilion to register. It wasn't easy to participate in the Qin Tian 13 sect's disciple recruitment. First, they had to go through the selection process of Cloud Peak City. Only those who were selected by Cloud Peak City would be recommended to participate in the Qin Tian 13 sect's disciple recruitment. Therefore, a large number of people would be selected from the beginning. After 7 days, those who are participating in the selection process will gather at Cloud Peak Plaza," said the person who was registering. "Thank you." The ancestor of techniques cupped his fists in gratitude. After signing up, they found an inn to stay in and waited. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming and the others headed towards Yunpeak Square. The Yunpeak Square was vast and could accommodate 1 million people at the same time. At this moment, the surroundings of Yunpeak Square were already packed with people. There were all sorts of races. Lu Ming glanced over and discovered dozens of races. Of course, most of them were here to watch and did not have the qualifications to participate in the selection. Those who participate in the screening enter the square. Those who do not have the qualifications to participate leave the square. Above the square, there was a middle-aged man in battle armor. His skin was golden yellow, and he looked like a bronze statue. This was the Copperskin race, a small race in the Qin Tian starfield. However, the aura emitted by this burly man was terrifying to the extreme. It pressured many people to the point that they could not breathe. He's much stronger than the Yuan Luo Hall Master and the Dharma Ancestor. Lu Ming's heart stirred. This burly man's cultivation was absolutely at the 6th level True God realm and above. It was even possible that he was a terrifying existence at the 7th level True God realm and above. Many people couldn't help but retreat out of the square. Only a few young people who were participating in the selection walked into the square. "Go ahead. Just do your best," the Dharma Ancestor reminded. Lu Ming and the rest nodded and stepped into the square. Stepping into the square, Lu Ming immediately noticed a few eyes looking at him. Kong Long, Sita Shao. Lu Ming looked around and discovered Kong Long and Sita Shao. At this moment, the two of them were looking at Lu Ming with a sinister expression. Lu Ming smiled faintly and ignored the two of them. As time passed, more and more people gathered in the square. In the chaotic galaxy, forces like the Righteous Sky Army and the Yuan Luo Hall, or forces that were stronger than them, added up to close to 1,000 people. The smaller ones had 5 or 6 people, while the smaller ones had 7 or 8 people participating. Some of the bigger forces had dozens of people. For example, the Yunpeak Pavilion had sent over 200 people to participate. All the forces had sent out more than 50,000 people. The Yunpeak Pavilion Master has arrived. Suddenly, a voice sounded. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. The Cloud Peak Pavilion's Pavilion Master was about to descend. He was currently the strongest person in the chaotic astral river. He was also the only heavenly god. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the distance, rays of light flew over and stood in the air above the square. There was a total of 5 people and 4 of them emitted a terrifying aura. Their auras were many times stronger than the burly man from the Copper Skin clan. However, the 4 of them were following behind a beautiful middle-aged woman. This middle-aged woman was a human and she didn't seem to have any aura. Greetings to the Pavilion Master. However, the burly man from the Copper Skin clan and the other experts of the Yunpeak Pavilion all bowed respectfully to the middle-aged woman. The Yunpeak Pavilion Master is actually a woman. At this moment, many people's hearts jumped and they revealed a surprised expression. For countless years, this is the first time the Qin Tian 13 sects have opened their doors to the chaotic galaxy to recruit disciples. This is a supreme opportunity for all of you. Everyone, you must make good use of it. The Yun Peak Pavilion Master's clear voice rang in everyone's ears. However, all of you must be mentally prepared. The Qin Tian 13 sect standards for recruiting disciples are shockingly high. Without a certain level of talent, it's impossible to be chosen. Therefore, today, there will be a screening. For those who pass the screening, I will recommend you to participate in the later tests of the Qin Tian 13 sects. Speaking until here, the Yun Peak Pavilion Master waved his hand and a small pagoda flew out. The small pagoda was bronze in color, and the moment it flew out, it rapidly expanded. In the end, it turned into a huge pagoda that floated in the air. It had a total of 81 floors. The screening is simple. You just have to challenge the pagoda. In this pagoda, there will be some puppets on every floor. You will enter the pagoda and challenge it. As long as you pass the 36th floor, you will pass. When you enter the pagoda, a token will appear and follow you. Once you pass the 36th floor, the token will shine and no one will be able to cheat. 10,000 people in a group, enter. The Yun Peak Pavilion Master announced. It's just challenging the pagoda. This is simple. Let me go first. A burly young man took the lead and flew into the huge pagoda. Let's go. Me too. Instantly, figures flew into the sky and into the huge pagoda. When 10,000 people entered the huge pagoda's door automatically closed. Everyone waited patiently. When everyone flew into the huge pagoda, they could see that the first floor of the pagoda was shining brightly. However, in just a few breaths' time, the second floor of the huge pagoda was also shining brightly. This meant that someone had already reached the second floor of the huge pagoda. However, very soon, the third, fourth, and fifth floors lit up. Lu Ming and the rest did not enter. They wanted to take a look first. Chapter 26-24. So fast. The 20th floor lit up. It's the 21st floor. Many people exclaimed. Clearly, there were some terrifying prodigies in this group who were extremely fast. Half an hour later. Suddenly, the space around the tower trembled. Then, the figure of a young snake man appeared. A token floated above the young man's head, but this token was dim. Clearly, this young man had been eliminated. He had been sent out without passing the 36th floor. Eliminated. Leave the square. The burly copper-skinned man from before said. The young snake man's face was extremely ugly. He was extremely unwilling. Lord, I was careless just now. Can you give me another chance? The young snake man cried out. He was unwilling to miss such an opportunity. If he could join the Qin Tian 13 sects, he would be able to soar into the sky. Leave the square. I'll say it one last time. The copper-skinned man said coldly. A cold aura emanated from his body. The young snake man shuddered. He didn't dare to stay any longer and flew out of the square. As soon as he flew out of the square, the token above his head automatically dissipated. Next, people were sent out of the tower. They were all eliminated. Those who were eliminated all had ugly expressions. They knew that they had lost a great opportunity. The Yunfeng Pavilion Master and the others looked on coldly. If they couldn't pass such a selection, even if they participated in the recruitment test of the Qin Tian 13 sects, they had no chance of passing. They would only be a joke. As time passed, more and more people were eliminated. Seeing this, the young men who hadn't entered the tower started to get nervous. However, the light on the giant tower was getting brighter and brighter. It's the 36th floor. Someone has passed the 36th floor. Someone shouted. At this moment, the 36th floor was shining. However, the person who had passed the 36th floor hadn't come out yet. It was obvious that he still wanted to continue. The Yunfeng Pavilion Master didn't say that one had to come out after passing the 36th floor. After passing the 36th floor, one could still continue. The higher the floor, the stronger the person would be and the more the Yunfeng Pavilion Master would value them. As expected, the 37th floor lit up not long after. However, after the 36th floor lit up, the speed of passing became much slower. Moreover, more and more people were sent out. In the end, nearly 9,000 people were teleported out. All of them had failed the trial. However, soon after, there were also those who were teleported out. The tokens above their heads were glowing brightly, indicating that they had passed the trial. Many people looked at these people enviously. The people who had succeeded all revealed looks of joy. Ha ha ha, this is a disciple of my Yellow Wind sect. He passed the selection. That's a disciple of my Flowing Cloud sect. He passed as well. Outside the square, some people laughed in surprise. They were all experts from various forces. Some people were happy, while others were sad. However, the trial wasn't over yet. It took half a day before the last person was teleported out. This was a young man with a cold and arrogant expression. He had made it to the 46th level and was ranked first in this group. His face was cold and arrogant as he scanned the surroundings, giving off a feeling of being in control of the world. With such talent, there's a high chance that he'll be chosen by the Qin Heavenly 13 sects. Very likely. Around the square, the experts of various forces were all envious. As for the people from that young man's faction, they were all overjoyed. Being ranked first among 10,000 people meant that he had a high chance of being chosen by the Qin Heavenly 13 sects. This was because there were only 50 to 60,000 youths in the chaotic galaxy who had participated in the selection. Out of the 10,000 people in the first batch, 9,000 were eliminated and only 1,000 or so passed. The elimination rate was 90%. Those who hadn't participated in the trial were extremely nervous. Some of them had even started to sweat. However, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing and the others were very relaxed. Next batch. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master ordered. Immediately, another 10,000 people flew into the giant tower. Among them, Lu Ming saw Kong Long, Situ Xiao and the others. After the 10,000 people flew into the giant tower closed and everyone waited patiently. The Yuan Luo Palace Master Kong Ji and the Walkabout Sect Master Situ Haonan looked at the giant tower nervously. Their eyes were filled with anticipation and anxiety. This time, it only lasted for 20 minutes before someone was teleported out. After that, more and more people were eliminated. In the end, more than 9,000 people were eliminated. Buzz buzz, another person was teleported out. Among them were Kong Long and Situ Xiao. However, the tokens above their heads shone brightly. It was obvious that they had passed. Their faces were filled with smiles and excitement. When they looked at Lu Ming, their eyes were filled with provocation. Brat, wait until I join the Qin Tian 13 sects. I'll make sure you die without a burial ground. Kong Long couldn't help but send a message to Lu Ming. The corner of Lu Ming's mouth rose, revealing a trace of mockery. He then looked in another direction and ignored Kong Long, ha ha ha. Outside the square, Kong Ji and Situ Haonan laughed. They were so excited that their mouths cracked. Especially Kong Long and Situ Haonan, they even looked at the ancestor of technique provocatively. However, they were ignored by the ancestor of technique. The ancestor of technique knew the talents of Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Xian Yanjuan. Kong Long and the others were nothing compared to them. The trial continued and some people had yet to come out. As time passed, some people had already passed the 45th floor and were heading towards the 46th floor, catching up to the first place of the previous batch. Not long after, the 46th floor lit up. They had already caught up with the best result of the first batch. However, it was obvious that the trial was still ongoing. Then, the 47th, 48th, and 49th floors gradually lit up. Amazing! Someone from this group actually managed to pass the 49th floor. Amazing! I wonder which faction's prodigy it is. It's very likely that he was chosen by the Qin Tian 13 sects. Look, it's the 50th floor. In the square, countless people stared at the giant tower and discussed animatedly. Even the Yunfeng Pavilion Master's eyes lit up. Feng hasn't come out yet. Could it be that Feng is inside? At this moment, Situ Haonan was excited. That was because his son, Situ Feng, had not come out yet. Almost everyone else had come out. Could it be that Situ Feng was the one who was challenging the tower? Situ Haonan was extremely excited at the thought of that. Look, it's the 51st floor. Someone shouted. Everyone was shocked. That person had actually reached the 51st level. They were all very curious. Who was it that could reach the 51st level? However, the 51st floor was still not the limit. 52nd, 53rd, a day later, the 55th floor lit up. It was almost 10 floors higher than the first place of the previous batch. That was extremely shocking. At this moment, the void around the giant tower trembled, and the figure of a young man appeared. The token above the young man's head shone like a sun. Chapter 26-25. Big Brother. It's my big brother. Situ Xiao cried out in joy when he saw the young man. The young man was Situ Feng. Everyone's eyes were on Situ Feng. They were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Not bad. The Yunfeng Pavilion Master looked at Situ Feng with satisfaction. As the strongest force in the chaotic galaxy, the Yunfeng Pavilion had the right to recommend geniuses to participate in the Qin Tian 13 sects recruitment test. Moreover, once someone was selected by the 13 sects, she would be rewarded. Therefore, the more geniuses there were in the chaotic galaxy, the happier she would be. With Situ Feng's talent, there was a high chance that he would be selected by the Qin Tian 13 sects. He might even be selected by the 3 overlords. It wasn't difficult to become a disciple of one of the 3 overlords, but once he joined, his future would be limitless. The Yunfeng Pavilion Master's eyes were burning. Ha ha ha, it's Feng. It's my son, Situ Feng. It's my son. At this moment, Situ Haonan reacted and laughed in joy. Brother Situ, congratulations. Kong Ji forced a smile on his face and congratulated Situ Haonan. In his heart, he was extremely jealous. With Situ Feng's talent, once he joined the 13 sects and was selected by one of the big shots, the walkabout sect status would rise. Although he was jealous, he still had to maintain a good relationship with Situ Haonan on the surface. Brother Situ, so that prodigy is your son. Your son's talent is truly shocking. Not bad, not bad. Brother Situ, I'll treat you to a drink next time. You must accept my invitation. Brother Situ. Immediately, the leaders of the big forces around Situ Haonan greeted him with smiles on their faces. It was obvious that they were trying to curry favor with Situ Haonan. What a joke. Situ Feng's talent was too shocking. There was a high chance that he would be selected by the 13 sects as a disciple. If they didn't curry favor with Situ Haonan now, when would they? Ha ha ha, you're all too polite. He might not be selected by the Qin Tian 13 sects. It's still not certain, Situ Haonan grinned. Although he had said that Situ Feng might not necessarily be chosen by the 13 sects, his expression was extremely excited. It was as if he could already see Situ Feng being chosen by the 13 sects and even being accepted as a disciple by some big shot of the 13 sects. His heart was at ease. This Situ Feng actually has such shocking talent. In the crowd, the ancestor of techniques was also shocked. He had heard of Situ Feng's name before. It was rumored that Situ Feng was a martial arts fanatic who was obsessed with cultivation. He did not expect Situ Feng's talent to be so shocking. However, when he thought of Lu Ming, he felt relieved. No matter how great his talent was, how could he compare to Lu Ming? Lu Ming controlled the Tao of the sovereign realm. Once he became a god, he would transform his god force into divine-grade god force. Even in the vast and boundless Qin Tian star field, there were probably only a few who could control divine-grade divine force. Overall, this batch of people was similar to the first batch. About 90% of them were eliminated, and only about 1,000 people succeeded. Among them, there were 2 from the Yuan Luo Palace and 3 from the Freedom Sect. Lu Ming's expression was calm, and he was unmoved. The second batch is finished. The third batch, go in. The Cloud Peak Pavilion's pavilion master instructed once more. Let's go in. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and the others. Okay. Xian Yanqing and the others nodded and then flew into the giant tower. As soon as Lu Ming flew into the giant tower, his surroundings immediately changed. He appeared in a spacious secret room. There was no one around except for him. This was within Lu Ming's expectations. This giant tower was obviously set up with a grand formation. Once one entered, they would most likely be alone. It was impossible to enter with others. A token appeared above Lu Ming's head. At this moment, the secret room lit up and several figures condensed. These figures were all puppets condensed by the grand formation. They charged at Lu Ming. Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and swept out, shattering these puppets one by one. He had passed the first floor. There was a staircase in the secret room. Lu Ming climbed up the stairs and arrived at the second floor. As expected, more puppets were condensed. Their strength was slightly stronger than the first floor, but it was not difficult for Lu Ming. With a sweep of his spear, the puppets were shattered, and Lu Ming ascended to the third floor. In this manner, Lu Ming continued to advance with an irresistible force. Third floor, fourth floor, fifth floor. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at the 30th floor. At this point, the strength of the puppets was quite strong, but it was still not difficult for Lu Ming. At most, his speed would be slightly reduced. Whoosh! 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 The long spear vibrated and pierced through the puppets, shattering them into pieces. Lu Ming set foot on the 31st floor. Then, it was the 32nd floor, the 33rd floor. Soon, Lu Ming reached the 36th floor. When Lu Ming defeated all the puppets on the 36th floor, the token above his head shone brightly. This meant that Lu Ming had passed. Enough. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not continue. Instead, he walked towards a light door at the side. Lu Ming did not intend to continue. It was enough. As long as he passed, it was enough. There was no need to attract too much attention. His goal was to join the Qin Tian 13 sects. Now, it was just a selection. As long as he could pass, it would be fine. Lu Ming stepped into the light gate and was teleported out of the huge pagoda. When Lu Ming came out, a few gazes swept over him. This included Kong Long, Situ Shao, Kong Ji, and the others. Humph, he was teleported out so early. The brightness of his token is not even as high as mine. I guess he just passed the 36th floor. Kong Long sneered. Not bad. I thought he was very talented, but it seems like he is only a so-so. Situ Shao sneered. As for Kong Ji and Situ Haonan, they were also discussing. I didn't expect this kid from the righteous army to succeed. However, looking at the brightness of his token, it is only a so-so. There is almost no hope for him to join the Qin Tian 13 sects. Kang Ji sneered and deliberately raised his voice to let the technique ancestor hear him. Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. He was too lazy to care. He was very clear about Lu Ming's talent. If he went all out, he would not have come out so early. It was obvious that Lu Ming did not want to attract too much attention. It was fine as long as he could pass. Lu Ming did not attract the attention of others. Not long after Lu Ming came out, Xian Yinqing, Xian Yinjuan, Dandan, and the others came out one after another. Naturally, they had all passed. However, the brightness of their tokens was about the same as Lu Ming's. Obviously, their thoughts were similar to Lu Ming's. They only wanted to pass. After a period of time, Tong Shi also came out. Tong Shi also passed. The brightness of her token was much brighter than Lu Ming's. She had passed the 40th floor. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.